Toku Secrets is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Oh, yes! This is Goldar, and you're listening to Toku Secrets Podcast. Don't tune us out, tune us in!
Welcome to Toku Secrets. Join us as we journey into the marvelous world of Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, and many other tokusatsu. Get ready for the adventure of a lifetime. It's Morphin time! Link to the Morphin Force. I'm Nathan Desai, the dazzling adventurer, Boken Silver.
I'm Patrick Allen, I'm Shinken Red.
And I'm Ridwan Merchant, Gokai Red.
And I'm Anthony Davis, also known as Curie Green. And we're Toku Secrets.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Toku Secrets podcast presented by animesecrets.org. And, we are back from Ranger Stop and Pop. Riz and I had a really great time. And in celebration of a particular anniversary that took place there, and Riz has already posted the panel that they were all on. We are going to be taking a look at Power Rangers Mystic Force. The entire cast, at least everyone who is still alive. May
she rest in peace.
Yeah, may Peter Rudder rest in peace. All of the Rangers were there, and it was the first time that they were together, according to some of them, for the first time in 20 years, because even though Mystic Force came out in 2006, they were filming in 2005, so it's technically the 20th anniversary of when Mystic Force was originally filming. So really big thing. So in celebration of that, we're going to be taking a look at Mystic Force today, and then to keep with Toku Secrets tradition, we're going to take a look at Magiranger, 5 episodes or more, all the way up to the end after we're done with this, and possibly a Mystic Force versus Magiranger versus special after that, but we'll see how that goes. But with that said, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to be taking a look at Power Rangers Mystic Force in its entirety today. Mystic Force, it's one of the Disney era seasons. It aired in 2006. It is the second season of what is known as the Bruce Kalish era, which was from Power Rangers SPD to Power Rangers Jungle Fury. And we'll go into some more details about some interesting fun facts after we go over the plot here. But with that said, we're taking a look at Power Rangers Mystic Force. So let's begin. So for the plot, to give a general overview, so now keep in mind this is from 2006's perspective. So 20 years ago, there was a world called Mystic World. It was filled with good magic, and it came under attack by forces of dark magic, the forces of darkness. They're trying to rule over all the realms. They got defeated by a team of mystic warriors, and their leader casted a spell that sealed them into the underworld. And then we fast forward to the present day, where the forces of darkness, they're under the command of their evil master, who's literally called the Master. They're preparing to return, and we have 5 teenagers that accidentally venture into the Mystic World from the city of Briarwood. They're found by the great sorceress Udana. She's also the White Mystic Ranger, and she reveals that they've been chosen to be the Power Rangers Mystic Force and defend the world from the forces of dark magic. So our team, we have the aloof and arrogant new kid in town, Nick Russell, fearsome as fire, Red Mystic Ranger. We have cheerful, friendly, and witty superhero lover, Chip Thorne, fast as lightning, Yellow Mystic Ranger. Shy and timid, yet kind, aspiring filmmaker, Madison Roka. She's fluid as the sea, Blue Mystic Ranger. We have Madison's tough and no-nonsense aspiring DJ sister Vita, ever-changing as the wind, Pink Mystic Ranger. And then we also have the charming, suave, laid-back skateboarder Xander Bly, strong as a tree, Green Mystic Ranger. Udana gets defeated by Korag the Night Wolf. He's a servant of the Master, and he steals her snow staff, which basically takes away her powers. So the Mystic Rangers have to defend the Mystic and human worlds from the forces of darkness themselves. We go through a series of fillers and other escapades. They unlock new spell codes to give them new abilities. Most notably, they can transform into the Mystic Titans, which can combine to form the Mystic Dragon and Titan Megazord. They find a dragon egg that hatches into a dragon called Fireheart, and they face off against his main general, Mordecon, when Mordecon gets unleashed onto the human world. But the Rangers were able to defeat Mordecon when Claire, she's a recurring character. She's Udana's niece and apprentice. She's able to use her mother's powers as the gatekeeper to seal the gate into the underworld for good, although she loses her powers after that. And then after Mordecon is killed, Necroli, she's the vampire servant of the Master. She recovers the body of the Master's mummy-like general called Imperius. Imperius was previously Kalendor, an ancient mystic. They're the magical beings who grant the Rangers their powers. He was corrupted by the Master. Imperius takes over, and the Rangers get aid as well. They find a lamp, which leads them to a magical cat-like genie named Gingy. They make contact with another humanoid ancient mystic named Daggeron. Daggeron gets turned back to human. He was previously a frog after Madison kisses him, and he joins the Rangers. He's a secondary mentor and a sixth Ranger in his Solaris Night form, and he also has his own Zord called the Solar Streak. Um, the Rangers get access to new Mystic Legend modes when after Imperius steals Gingy and wishes for a world where the Power Rangers never existed, and they're able to get it reversed and get new powers. We later discover that Korag is actually Lianbo. He is one of the ancient mystics and Udana's husband. He was presumed dead, but uh, he actually was just corrupted by the Master to become his servant. And we also find out that Nick is Udana and Lianbo's son Bowen. He was taken to the human world by a creature named Phineas. Liambo is freed from the Master's control, but then he is forced to break away again because he's fighting to hold the Master off from returning. Daggeron destroys Imperius during this same fight, and then we get some new villains called the Ten Terrors, who reveal that Nick is the Light, the most powerful wizard, and the one who's capable of destroying the Master. The 10 Terrors go after the Rangers one by one. In the midst of this battle, we get some more cool things to happen. Nick gets his Battleizer, where he can combine with Fireheart to become the Red Dragon Fire Ranger. Udon is briefly captured by the Terrors, but then she regains her Snow Staff and becomes the White Ranger again. Liambo is able to be revived, and he joins the Rangers, donning a crimson-colored version of his Night Wolf form, the Wolf Warrior. But then the Master returns, and he vows to destroy the world. He attacks the Mystic world. Well, first he tries to corrupt Nick, but then he fails, and then he attacks the Mystic world and the human world. He destroys Liambo and Daggeron. But the Rangers fight back. They deal a fatal blow to the Master, and Necroli gets turned good by her daughter Lily, and Necroli revives Daggeron and Liambo. All 8 of the Mystic Rangers are able to get their powers restored by the combined belief in magic from humans and the people of the Mystic world. They come together to destroy the Master once and for all. And with the forces of darkness defeated, Nick takes his leave from Briarwood alongside his parents, and the Mystic world and humans begin to live peacefully within the city of Briarwood, and that's how the series ends. So a little bit more of some fun facts before we dive in here. Jackie Marchand, she had been a writer for the series since at least Turbo, I think. She was promoted to story editor with this season. She would hold this role for 3 years before she got fired ahead of RPM. Mystic Force is notable for being the first season to have an entirely Australian or New Zealander cast. Every Disney era season prior to this one had at least one American actor. They were all asked to do American accents, but apparently Richard Brand Conisano, who played Xander, they allowed him to retain his accent because his accent apparently really sucked. So I, Bruce, we probably should have
I
had his American accent there.
I will say, having talked to him for quite a while, um, I don't like saying that his American accent was bad. I want to say that his New Zealand accent is amazing.
Yeah, that's fair.
He has a very fun accent, and he's really fun to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like saying it's a bad accent.
I mean, that's what he said. That's what he said, not anybody
Oh,
else.
I know,
So,
I know. He said it.
yeah.
That's how I counter back to him if I ever heard him say it too. I'd be like, no,
Yeah.
your accent's good.
Yeah.
It's just not American,
Hmm.
and that's probably a good thing.
Couple more. Antonia Preble, she plays Claire this season. And I actually did an interview with her. You'll be able to see that very soon. She previously voiced the Nova Ranger in Power Rangers SPD, and she was also Connor's love interest, Krista, in 2 episodes of Dino Thunder. John Toohey, who Riz just recently interviewed, you'll get to see that soon. He played Daggeron this season. He previously played Commander Kruger, the Shadow Ranger in Power Rangers SPD. So this makes him the only actor to play 2 different Ranger characters. He apparently liked playing Daggeron more because apparently he was literally in the Doggy Kruger suit and felt that he wasn't able to express his acting because you're walking around wearing a scaly blue dog mask all the time. Nobody's gonna be able to see your face. So yeah, Kelson Henderson, he played Boom in the previous season SPD. He played Phineas this season. He plays Norg in the next season. He voices Flit the Fly in Jungle Fury, and he plays Mick Canick in Ninja Steel, Dino Fury, and Cosmic Fury. He's also voiced a number of monsters in the human form of one monster and Beast Morphers. Barney Duncan, who played Piggy last season, he returns to play Toby here, and he briefly reprises his role as Piggy in one episode called Ranger Down, where he is funnily foreshadowing the events of SPD. An important thing to note is that apparently SPD's finale proved to be very expensive. The finale itself apparently used up almost the entire season's budget, which that's not surprising because even though I haven't watched SPD in a long time, I can tell you that you could probably count the number of minutes that they use Sentai footage in that finale on one hand. So it's not surprising that that was a very expensive finale to shoot. But Disney being Disney, they cut the budget down significantly. So they had to cut the episodes down this season. I'm going to get more thoughts on that later. They requested the crew to use as much Sentai footage as they possibly could. This is supposedly the reason why there's no episode with Power Rangers SPD, which that sucks. Although at least we got to see Ross Sirianni and Brandon J. McLaurin together at Ranger Stop and Pop. So I guess that's kind of it. Although again, I'm super. I'm always going to be super angry at that because I remember when Ranger Down came out and Piggy showed up, and I was watching it as a kid, and I'm like, "Oh, cool, it's Piggy!" So we're going to get an SPD team up in a few weeks, and we didn't get it, and I was one mad child.
Dude,
Nathan
same
mad,
here.
Nathan angry.
Yeah,
See Nathan smash.
I probably did do that, knowing the kind of kid I was. But anyway, so the Mystic Mother here, they made a decision to make her a reformed Rita Repulsa. It was done as a tribute to the actress Michiko Soga. Michiko Soga played Rita Repulsa's Sentai counterpart, Witch Bondora, and she also played the Mystic Mother Sentai counterpart in Magiranger. There's no relation between the two characters, just the same actress. And unfortunately, while Mystic Force was in production, she passed away from pancreatic cancer. And Magiranger was her final acting appearance, so it was kind of meant to be a tribute to her. Which, yeah, that was pretty cool. Although I kind of wish, I mean, Kalish, couldn't you have had her dubbed by Barbara Goodson just to keep with continuity? Like, come
If
on, dude.
if you didn't say that, I was gonna say that because that should have happened.
I mean, because you can do this over the phone. I mean, in Power Rangers Dino Thunder, when they had Tommy stuck in his Ranger form, that was done so that Jason David Frank could go back to the United States and he was reading all of his lines and doing it over the phone. So you can't do the same with Barbara Goodson? That's come on, Kalish, come on. Um, and speaking of Bruce Kalish, and this is the last fun fact before we start talking about some stuff. So Kalish had this weird tradition where the number of words in an episode's title would always be um, in relation to the number of seasons. So SPD was his first season, so there's only one word in every title. Mystic Force is his second season, so all of the episodes are to 2 words, except one episode called The Snow Prince. But did you really have to add the? You could have just called it Snow Prince. Like, I mean, then again, I mean, I guess that whole tradition by itself is just kind of stupid, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some before we start talking about the plot, I've added a couple of extra things to talk about with Power Rangers since it doesn't relate to the Sentai. So we're going to start off by giving our thoughts on the theme song here. Uh, a little bit of a fun fact to talk about the theme song, though. So Ron Wasserman, he was the composer for the franchise during the Zordon era. He returned to do the theme song for Power Rangers SPD. He was in talks to do the theme song for Mystic Force. He did 2 versions. He did a rap style and a rock style. Disney rejected them both and went with this new hip hop type of theme song. But the rock version was released online shortly before Mystic Force came out. And the rock version is actually considered better than most people would probably say the actual theme song ended up being. But what do you guys think about the Mystic Force theme song? And you could talk about what you think about the rock version as well, but just in general, what do we think about it?
I mean, everybody craps on the Overdrive theme for obvious reasons because it's like lazy rap,
Yeah.
but it just the lyrics don't make any sense for that one. I think the Mystic Force one had a really good vibe of it had a stereotypical like wizardy uh like vibe to it.
Uh-huh.
And I think the rapping is a little bit more subtle to it, and I think it works better than the overdrive jumbled mess. I do prefer Wasserman's version though because I'm more of a rock guy than a rap dude. So I did wish they went with that one, but seeing how this is the first theme song that deviates from rock, I don't mind it actually.
It's actually not a bad song.
It's
Um,
catchy. Like
it is like
once you get into the groove of it, it's like, why is this so fun to listen to?
I'll be honest. I don't think I told Nathan this at the con last week, but for some reason after that panel, I had the song stuck in my head and I couldn't figure out why because they didn't play the song at the panel. So I don't know why it was in my head, but it was in my head for like at least 10 minutes.
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I actually probably like listening to I mean, okay, it's not as good as like some of the classic ones. Like, I probably prefer the SPD Jungle Fury and a lot of the Zordon era ones to this one, but there's a handful
Yes.
of like the straight up rock theme songs from Power Rangers that I probably like lesser than this one. Like, I probably, okay, this might, okay, like I said, this might be an unpopular opinion. I actually like listening to it more than I like listening to the Lost Galaxy theme song a little bit. The Lost Galaxy
Yeah.
theme song I just think is completely overrated. Um well
Not to me, but okay.
It's what I
uh
think the Lost Galaxy theme is better when you remove the lyrics The instrumental for that theme is amazing.
That
is
yes,
true.
Yes, that is true. But yeah,
I'm the minority
there's
here when it comes to that. Okay.
obviously I like listening to this more than RPM because RPM takes the rock thing way too far, and it's
Yeah,
just
I definitely
stupid.
agree with you on that
Yeah.
one.
I also want to say real quick to Anthony, you're not alone. I just like the instrumental more than the vocal. I like the vocal a lot
I mean,
too for Lost Galaxy.
I get that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
So-
that the Mystic Force theme is better without the lyrics also, because I think it gives more of that mystical vibe that fits with the theme.
I was just about to say that. The instrumental music,
Mhm.
while it's not like if you listen to the instrumental, you would probably not realize that there's rap for the song.
Yeah.
And it's actually a real banger.
It is. Like, man, when it was playing over their final roll call right before they beat the master at the very end, oh my gosh, dude, it's so good like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, here's the weird thing. Linkara, who I have a lot of respect for, he not only said he didn't like the theme song, but he also said that they don't really use it a lot in like epic moments. And I'm just thinking, like, did we watch the same show? I remember this being used like during every like major epic moment, like when they're defeating Mordecai or during the final battle or during a lot of Megazord fights. And that the instrumental of the theme song actually got me hyped up in those moments. Like, did we watch the same show, Linkara? Like,
Linkara is the type he just loves the Zoran era. I thought you
Yeah.
the first time, so I was like kind of weird. Like weird, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, but
That's all I wanted to say.
I'd probably say that I feel half tempted to put it in maybe low A, high B tier for the theme song. Like, there's other theme songs that I think are probably just always going to be better than this. Like, it doesn't hold a candle to like the In Space theme song or the Jungle Fury theme
Yeah, not
song,
even
but
close.
No,
but
I actually prefer this theme over the Jungle Fury one.
oh, okay.
Like as much as I love Jungle Fury, I don't like the theme very much. It feels too. How do I word this? The Disney era did a really good job of trying to keep the theme songs from sounding really, I guess, Saturday morning cartoony. And Jungle Furies really feel Saturday morning cartoony.
Yeah, that's fair. But I would probably say when I'm thinking about Disney era theme songs, maybe this would be like for number one, I would probably have I would definitely have SPD as number one for Disney era
And then
themes.
Dino Thunder is 2.
Yeah. And then it would probably be Jungle Fury after that, and then yeah, probably this one. So because I definitely think, I mean, okay, this is obviously everything's better than the Overdrive theme, and it. I don't hate the Ninja Storm theme. I just
it's bland.
It's ass. So yeah, it's definitely better than the Ninja Storm theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't agree with that, honestly. I really do enjoy the Ninja Storm theme, honestly.
It's just plain. Like, there's nothing egregiously wrong with it. It's just not as exciting as some of the others.
So I just listened to the Jungle Fury theme again.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mystic Force has my vote.
He gets it.
No, because okay, so you mentioned something about Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, it sounds like a hammy Saturday morning cartoon theme.
But it's not even just that. I think the lyrics about Dicey, like there's that little phrase in the middle, Dicey something. I can't remember.
Go away or something.
Yeah. That
it's
line.
childish.
That line bugged me.
Yeah,
Mystic Force, however, has the catchy tone, and I think it's just a better theme. And so, yeah, SPD, then Dino Thunder. What's
Mystic
left? Mystic, Jungle. What else?
Ninja Storm, RPM, and then Overdrive.
Yeah, I'd agree with
in
that.
that order.
Yeah.
But okay, now we can move on to the other thing that is exclusive to this, because obviously they're not just going to take the exact. Well, then again, they sort of do with one of the Rangers, but we'll get to that. Let's talk about the morphine sequence here. What do we think about the morphine sequence?
Hang on, I got something for y'all. Hang on.
Let's Ranger up!
There, now you can talk.
Sweet.
You had that on standby. I dig it. Like the flying through the magical seal and everything. I prefer it over its Sentai counterpart. I'm not a fan of the Magiranger Henshin. From the little bit I've seen of it.
Mind it. But I agree with you. I do prefer the Mystic Force one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main fives is good. Daggeron's kind, and I also want to talk about this in another second. Daggeron's kind of looks a little too plain, and it definitely does take a little bit from the Sentai Henshin sequence, where he just transforms into his ancient mystic mode and then he becomes a ranger. Lingenbo doesn't have a morphing sequence, so we can't really talk about that. Udana's look kind of plain, but that main 5-1 I would say is probably I really like it for how unique it is, because I said this when we were doing the RPM versus Go Under versus series. With the exception of Jungle Fury, like Disney seasons tended to kind of rip off the SPD's morphing sequence, where like they open their morpher, data shows up in their morph, pops out of, and it gets absorbed into their body. Here, it's like they summon this seal, they jump up into the air, that gives them their suit. Like it's actually pretty cool. I don't know if I would put it in my top 5, but it's a top 10 morphing sequence at least.
No, and there's also that little bit at the end. Hang on, I'm gonna play that piece real quick because I want to hear the word because I can't say it.
What? Calling Mystical Ranger?
No, after that.
Oh.
That.
Yeah, that's what I said.
With Mr. Ranger.
It's Galwit, Mr. Ranger.
Oh, is that what it says? I always
Yeah.
thought it was a phone joke.
No.
no,
And I thought
no.
that for years too. You know when I figured it out?
What?
When I was watching it for this review a couple of weeks ago, my subtitles kept saying Galwit, Mr. Ranger. I was like, what the hell is that?
It's supposed to be like a spell.
Yeah, and I get that. I wanted to
Like a transformation spell that they put over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll get to
I
our
have the
thoughts on.
translation.
Okay.
Galwit means call. Misto means secret, which is also a special spelling for mystic. So play on words there, yay. And then Ranger. We know what Ranger means. So it's call secret Ranger.
So I was kind of right, just not really.
You were right, but in a different language. You're correct
in a different language.
I think you're correct in Gaelic or something. I don't know what it's like. Actually,
it might be Gaelic.
No, you know what? It's actually it's more interesting. They have the etymology on the side. So Galwit is Welsh, Misto is Greek, Ranger is French.
Okay.
You're just white. You're European. Good job. Yeah, and the rest of the words from Mystic Force that are spells, they're all like Latin, Welsh, all mixed together in like their own ways.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
It is. And I didn't know this until right now. So hey, here's a fun fact brought to you by Rizwan. You're welcome.
Great attention to detail.
I am gonna clip that and make it a little real later.
Because I mean, that's where a lot of those like incantations and stuff kind of originated in that part of the world, supposedly.
Yeah, like a lot of Harry Potter spells originate from the Latin language.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, though, it really does feel like that this show tried to take the vibe of that series, because the Harry Potter series was still rather popular at the time this show came out.
Okay, so I'll be honest with y'all. I know we have a lot more to talk about in this podcast, but I watched Mystic Force probably a year after Overdrive came out. And I know that because I had just watched the Overdrive Once Arranged or Always Arranged special because Adam was in it.
Mhm.
And then my friend at the time, still my friend actually, I talked to him the other day because I showed him a photo of my Ranger Stop stuff. But he got me to watch Mystic Force with him because he had watched Magiranger and he liked it, but he wanted to see Mystic Force with me. And it was such a fun time to watch it because I was still on my Harry Potter high, and seeing magic and Rangers mixed together was just really cool to me.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good job, guys. You made a good season.
And they picked a perfect year to put it into. I mean, granted, it's just a coincidence, but like the Goblet of Fire came out in 2005, and then the Order of the Phoenix came out in 2007. You feeling Harry Potter withdrawal? Well, don't worry. There's a Power Ranger season that you can just watch to tide you over.
Trust me, I had a lot of withdrawal.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I had a lot.
Just like how they chose Zoo Ranger to capitalize off Jurassic Park.
Yep.
They managed to capitalize off Magiranger at the right time.
Yep.
You think Japan didn't know that? You think Japan hadn't planned for this somehow? Japan knows everything, Patrick.
I mean, I don't know how big Harry Potter is in Japan, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a reason they went with a magician season at that point.
Oh, it's big in Japan because according to my wife, yeah.
Okay, then Magiranger was done intentionally. It worked out for both countries.
Yep. And one last thing that was not in the Sentai, the Battleizer for this, and we're probably going to have to find another way to like talk about the ones that we haven't talked about in the seasons, but that's another podcast for another time. In this case, we have the Red Dragon Fire Ranger as the Battleizer. What do we think about that?
You add dragon wings to something, it's automatically cool. I don't make the rules, I'm just explaining them to everybody.
Also, question on a go back to something Nathan said much earlier, and it just now hit me because I'm doing something in the background at the same time. Didn't Nathan say earlier that only John Tui was able to play 2 Ranger characters with Sato and Daggeron?
I did say that.
But Nick played Yellow Mystic and Sentinel Knight.
Well, yeah, but
unless you're not going to count Sentinel Knight as a Ranger, which is fair, but
wait, that was him who voiced Sentinel Knight?
Yes.
Huh.
But I think the difference, Riz, is that in the case of Kruger and Daggeron, they were both regular characters that were in the opening credits. Sentinel Knight isn't.
You know, this piece of trivia requires me to have watched Overdrive and cared more about it to really remember that detail you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched Overdrive recently, but yeah, he's right.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Because I needed to prepare for like whatever review we do in case we ever talk about it.
You could have waited until we got to Bokenger.
Yeah, but I'm watching Bokenger now, so I'm kind of just watching both.
You know what? You do you, bud. And now I'm gonna purposely make us hold off on doing Bokenger so you can watch it a third time later.
That's fine.
Don't be that cruel. Come on, man.
Anthony must suffer with us.
He's gonna.
I mean, like I've already seen it, so it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, like no, don't like. Okay, I'm good. Like I'm numb to this stuff now. So
note the word now.
This season can't hurt me anymore.
It's
it can hurt you still.
No, not really.
But yeah, what else do we want to talk about with the Battleizer here?
I actually like this Battleizer quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the storyline of the dragon, Fireheart or something.
Yeah, Fireheart.
Yeah, I like that storyline. I thought it was a pretty interesting storyline, and I like the way that they utilized the dragon to make a suit. It just really fell in well with, hey, mystical powers, magic, Harry Potter, and all that stuff. So you get a thumbs up from me.
And you got
Yeah,
two
the more
ones.
this might actually be the first battleizer that actually does kind of gel with the theme of the series. Because I
Mhm.
mean, in some cases, it's just like
Mhm.
just typical armor. I mean, in the case of Time Forces, now granted, I love the Time Force battleizer, but it being knight armor when it's a time like futuristic theme, it just doesn't gel. But like with this, like I mean, we've talked about how it obviously has some Harry Potter influences, but it also has a lot of fantasy elements, a la Lord of the Rings, which was
Mhm.
also still pretty popular at the time, even though the last film had come out like 3 years ago when the season came out. But like having the dragon theme to the Ranger is just perfect. And this is probably one of all, I mean, if you want to count the Shogun Ranger thing from Samurai to be a battleizer, you could say that that meshed with the theme of the series as well. But I probably prefer the design of the Red Dragon Fire Ranger if we're comparing those two.
Yeah, and it doesn't become a balance to like literally the last episode of the series.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Samurai Wise, but yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Did Power Rangers label the Kyoryu Carnival equivalent as a battleizer in Dino Charge?
I think they did, yeah.
Did they?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I wasn't certain if they labeled it as such.
And then Ninja Steel didn't get one, but no, actually no, I'm wrong. It did. It did have a battleizer,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, Ninja Steel did have one.
Yeah.
Didn't
And I was
Beast
gonna say
Morphers have
that
one for like 2 episodes?
Yeah, Beast Morphers
yes.
had one for like 2-3 episodes.
Yeah. It was
Man, that
the problem
storyline was such a letdown.
yeah, but the problem with that was that it was making him evil, so if he kept using it, he would have turned evil completely.
It was a cool idea. It's just that they
Yeah.
burned through it way too fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was original too, like because I remember it was called Fury Mode or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to rely on it was powered by these red crystals called the Fury. I forgot it was Fury cells or something like that. I forgot what it was
Yeah,
called.
they
But
gave him
yeah,
like Wolverine claws. It was a sick power up.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we don't have to talk about the suits or the legend mode because we'll talk about that when we get to Magiranger. So yeah, let's jump into the more serious stuff. We're gonna start off by talking about the story, I guess, just to give overall thoughts with like how it meshed, what they could have done better, what they probably did well. So yeah, we could just not necessarily just go one by one, but like we can just kind of kick off the discussion there.
What the overall story?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think this is kind of where I guess let's just rip the band-aid off here because this is probably going to be dipping into the character discussion thing, but the biggest problem with this season story-wise is it's almost meant to be Nick's plot because he is like clearing away the main character of the season,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
but they wrote him like a side character when they wrote the side characters with a more prominent role when they weren't prominent characters. This season had a really bad habit of putting the focus in the wrong places when it came to character writing.
If you want to get a hint on like how Nick steals the spotlight here, um, a perfect opportunity that where you could have had the other four Rangers actually get a moment to shine, and they kind of do it with Madison and Vita just a little bit, but not enough. And there's actually a reason for that I'll get into that later. But the whole 10 Terror story arc, that could have been an arc where each of the Rangers get a moment to shine by defeating one of the terrors individually. And here's the funny thing, kind of a spoiler, but not kind of a spoiler for Magiranger, but I kind of have to make this point. In Magiranger, the terror that Nick defeats with his battleizer for the first time, in Magiranger, that terror defeats everybody except Magi Yellow, and Magi Yellow defeats him in a one-on-one fight, in a really epic fight too. That could have easily have been an episode where you gave Chip a moment to shine. You kind of tried to do something with Madison and that magma monster, but it's not focused on enough. Like, she just sprays him with water magic, and then it's automatically fine. Like, maybe you could have filmed a little bit of original footage showing her to beat that monster. Vita befriends that terror, but again, it doesn't get focused on that much. They don't do anything with Xander. Daggeron does have that one episode where he fights that dragon one, which I mean was fine, but it's like the 10 Terror story arc was a perfect moment for you to give the other Rangers some focus before you delve into all this light stuff with the Master. But the
Yeah.
problem is that even in those episodes, all this light stuff ends up stealing the spotlight. So you have no room to give these Rangers any focus. And with the exception of Daggeron, who we'll get into, all of these Rangers are infinitely more interesting than Nick.
That's true.
Yeah, like that was my problem with the 10 Terrors arc, where it felt like Udana's daughter, what was her name?
Claire.
Claire.
No, not daughter, but
Well,
it was
It's her
her
apprentice.
Apprentice, thank you. Yeah,
actually her niece too.
Yeah, her and like it was like the side character hour. Like they're great characters. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like complaining that they're bad characters, but it felt like they were the main characters of that story arc.
Yes, that was my main issue with the show too.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I said the show didn't know who to focus on, because I don't think the problem is that Nick stole the show. The problem is they put him in a position to be the focus point and then didn't focus on him enough.
Yeah,
because so they focus on everybody else.
He's probably the most underwritten character in this whole show, but then they put him in the spotlight the whole season. So it's like, why should I care? You're trying to make me care, but you're not giving me a reason to care.
That part.
Yeah.
See, I definitely get you on that one, Patrick. That's literally me, how I felt watching Mystic Force through its entirety.
Yeah. And it sucks too, because you look past all that stuff and there's good stuff here. Like, I think, like I said, the side cast is great. The other core 5 Rangers are fun characters that are just
absolutely
fun to like. It's Madison, Veach, Chip, Xander. I love those 4. They're so energetic and everything. But Nick being the focal point and being such a snooze fest of a character is just, it drags it down.
It's like I was telling Melanie at the con last week. Melanie played Madison, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene that she has at the end in the finale where, Nick is losing hope and he's saying, "Guys, smell the darkness. We're about to lose the battle. There's no point in fighting anymore." Madison's like, "No, you can't give up. We have to keep going." That was such a strong moment for Madison, who had been so introverted and so, in her cell. Like, she came out and she was aggressive and she said, "No, screw you. You're the leader. Like it or not, we got to keep fighting. And if I have to drag you kicking and screaming, I will." That's the impression I got watching that scene. And, again, I've seen this season 3 times, and each time I see it, it's like chills for me.
Yeah. So
there's stuff in this season where other 4 characters do amazing stuff. Sorry, Anthony, I know you're trying to say something, but I have to cut it out.
You're good. What I was gonna say was that, like, I agree with you on that. I was gonna add to it and I hope this doesn't sound bad, like saying this, but what I will say is that her acting was so good, it felt like her rent was due. That's the type of vibe I'm getting. Like, when you give me that kind of energy,
what a description!
Whoa! Say that again. What?
So know how, like, there's like this term people say, well, like, you act your butt off so well that you feel like rent was due. Basically, it's kind of like a
Yeah,
you're
trying extra hard to earn the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically what I'm
Yeah.
gonna say. As I say, I hope it doesn't sound bad when I say that. It's just
No, it's just that for the one moment where Madison needed to put on, to really let the emotions out, they picked a fine time to make it happen.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't disrespect
Yeah.
the actress when I say that. I just hope that wasn't come across as like that, because that's supposed to be like a compliment in a way. But I could see if you feel like, oh, that's kind of like insult. Because,
No, I mean, if there was one moment she needed to turn the dial up to 11, that was the moment to do it, and she did it.
yeah,
Yep. To kind of bring this up with the plot that kind of relates to it, of the 4 seasons that got cut down to 32 episodes, I would probably say that this is the one that got hurt the most. Because when you look at the other seasons, okay, Operation Overdrive has a lot of problems, but it being cut down to 32 episodes is not one of them. Because when you think about it, they're adapting a Sentai where every episode is about some new MacGuffin item of the day. So then the episodes being cut down in Operation Overdrive, uh, they made it work. In Jungle Fury, okay, sometimes there's a little too much jammed in an episode or two to make it work that you would like, but Jungle Fury was able to make it work for the most part. RPM deviated completely from the Sentai, so they were just doing whatever they wanted, and they were able to make it work with the 32 episodes. The problem with Mystic Force is that they're like, when I was writing like my review doc, which anybody you can check that out. The link into that is in my Sentai Blog Ranger thing. When I was reviewing all these episodes, there were so many times where I was just thinking you could have cut this episode to make room to give more development for this plot, or you could have cut that, or you could have cut this. But then I eventually just reached a point where it's like I'm running out of episodes to say that they could cut. The solution here is that they just need more episodes,
yeah,
because then you could have had like, because there's like 1 2-parter where we find out not only is Horag Lianbo, but Nick is also their son. You should have you could have had a 2-parter, or at least one episode that revolved around us discovering that Nick is Bowen, and then have that lead to the heir apparent 2-parter where Liam Bow discovers that Nick is his son, and then you could have more time dedicated to Nick, kind of being in shock over who his real parents are. There's an episode where Vita befriends that terror, but it doesn't get focused on that much because they're jamming in a bunch of other things, like with Liambo turning good and becoming the Wolf Warrior. So you could have had room for an entire episode revolving around Liambo returning, so that Vita could have more moments with that terror. And the finale, oh my god, like how much stuff was jammed in that? You had the thing Nick is corrupted into a new Korag, then he gets free 2 minutes later. There's drama between the terrors. Nick gets jealous over Liambo. They have to fight like 2 different terrors, and then you
yeah.
have this final battle with the
It
master
was
come up so
fast paced
nonchalantly.
as crazy. Yeah, so
Like,
I totally agree with you on that.
how much better would it have been if Nick being corrupted into a new Korak was 1 2-parter in and of itself?
Yeah, that
Like,
would have been amazing.
this should have been 38 episodes. And if you had 38 episodes, as well as cut some of the filler episodes that don't revolve around the other 4 Rangers, you have more episodes. That gives you more time to give focus and fleshing out of the other 4 Ranger characters that you desperately needed to get more focus. So, of all seasons to be cut down to 32 episodes, you wanted to do it after this season, do it with Operation Overdrive, knock yourself out. But you should
Right.
not have cut this season down to 32 episodes, because you this it's just not doable. I mean,
Yeah.
they did the best that they could, and I'll take my hat off to the writers, but at some point it just became a little too much.
You
It
can
did.
tell that it was a decision that was made pre-production, spontaneously.
Yeah.
I actually think the reason this happened and you might have already said it, Nate, in that rant. I kind of lost track of your rant halfway through. No offense, but
Yeah.
um, I kind of think that maybe it's because the SPD budget was so far over.
Yeah,
Like,
it was. That's what I
I
said.
yeah. So I think having lost so much money there, they had no choice. But it hurt so much to do that because it hurt this season quite a bit. It certainly hurt Jungle Fury a lot because
Yeah.
had Jungle Fury had the full budget and had Mystic Force had the full budget that SPD did, I'm sorry to say, but we might have some different S tiers today.
No, I think
Yeah,
no, I
it's
think it
sad,
was
tragic.
okay with Jungle Fury. Jungle Fury was hurt more by the 2008 Writers Guild strike, but
Yeah, but I think the budget being set low at Mystic Force. So once you set a budget low and you see it work and you can produce a whole season, your executives are not going to say, "Oh, well, hey, we gave them less money and they produced something and it got ratings. So let's keep giving them less money. We don't have to give that whole budget we gave them last year. That's too much money. We could save that for something else, like our pockets." So they never had a chance to recover because they were able to produce Mystic Force in whatever state it was in, like it may not have
yeah,
been the best quality, but they're not looking for quality. They're looking for something to sell the toys. And hey, you got a TV set up? Kids see the toys on the TV. They want the toys. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, if you want an idea of like just how little Disney cared about quality, they didn't do it with this season, but according to an interview with Jackie Marchand when they were getting ready to do Operation Overdrive, apparently Disney gave them an even lower budget than Mystic Force got, and they said, "Yeah, just take Bo Kinter footage and dub over it." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's how little
Now that
Disney
sounds about
cared.
right. That sounds about right.
And I mean, I don't fully blame Disney for this, nor do I really blame the executives for doing what they did. Because for them, they're seeing the classic formula that Saban made of, hey, we're doing this franchise to take Sentai footage, repurpose it as much as we can, spend less on American filming to create something to sell the toys that we're going to make money off of. End of the day, that's all they care about, and they did that really well here in that way.
Yeah.
But no, I think the story of Mystic Force, in my opinion, could have been a lot better had they spread out the character development a lot more. And we can talk about characters in a lot more detail later. But
Yep.
yeah, I definitely think that the characterizations of certain characters was kind of diminished quite a bit. And I mean, this might be my recency bias having just watched it and having met the cast, but I honestly think if we had given this cast a full budget and more focus on people not named Nick Russell, I think we could have some very strong cases for higher tier characters from this season.
Yep.
I wouldn't
100%.
I wouldn't say that they're all S tier, but high A, low S, maybe some Bs. But I think there's a lot there that we didn't really get to explore with these
Yeah.
characters, and it really kind of sucked.
And I feel like they tend to focus on some things that are a little too, like, they put too much emphasis on stuff that they don't need that much emphasis on. Like, I remember the ending of the episode where Daggeron joins the team, where they're playing this like eerie music, and then Phineas is all like, "Oh no, they're gonna find out what I did," and you're like, "Oh, what did he do? Did he do something evil? Did he join the forces of magic, the forces of darkness?" No, he took Nick out of the mystic world because he was trying to get a baby out of the middle of a fight, which is literally something any decent person in that situation would do. What was the point of adding so much drama over that?
I don't know what was going through his head. He was like, well, I just thought I was doing the right thing, something wrong. So,
Anthony, you did that voice way too well.
Oh, really? Dude, I was trying my best to get that voice down packed, and I feel like I would have gotten it, but like I keep feeling like I don't got it. You know?
No, you had it.
Hey, Carl Dutton, if you're listening to this and you ever do an adaptation of Mystic Force, hire Anthony to voice Phineas.
My
And
pleasure.
also get him to voice Jinxer if you do Lightspeed Rescue.
Well, they're
Definitely.
going to do Lightspeed Rescues at some point soon, I'd imagine, like in the next
Yeah.
couple of years.
Now, because Anthony's
Because
Jinxer impersonation was creepily accurate.
It was, but this
yeah,
Phineas is pretty good money too.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm trying to do like a lot of the Kelson Henderson voices because since I've rewatched Operation Overdrive, but the good part about it is I kind of been trying to get Mig's voice because he voiced Mig in Operation Overdrive too, the
Yeah,
one
one of
the
the Fear
Cats.
Cats.
What's a
Yeah.
MIG? Oh, okay.
It was a Mig.
Look, man, I don't remember anything
That
about.
the green Fear Cat, the one that talks like this, like
There's
that.
a green one.
Now, Riz, do you remember that video the first reel that I posted when I was experimenting with reel editing, where one of those villains says to the Overdrive Rangers, "You're not heroes, you're losers," and then they do the thing.
Yeah,
The
I'll
villain that
make it.
is not heroes, you're losers. That was Kelson Henderson.
I'll make it easy for you, Riz.
okay.
In when the Retro Rangers return, that
Mhm.
he fought the original Rangers fought him and
Yeah.
what's that
Xander trapped him in a bunch of vines
yeah,
when he made his debut.
still does ringing bells.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
At some point, I'll rewatch the crap, and we'll see.
Anyway, now we can move on to talking about the actual character stuff because I think we've gotten our overall thoughts on the plot all kind of worked out. Yeah, we're gonna start off with the villains because we're gonna save the Rangers. We're saving the good stuff for last here. So let's start off with the villains. Not much to talk about with them outside of Korag, but Korag is Liambo, so we're gonna save him for the Ranger section. So let's start off with Necroli.
Necroli actually wasn't a bad character.
No.
I think it was interesting having Necroli with her daughter Lily.
Mhm.
Um, because you could see a lot of that dynamic of the mother-daughter duo where mother is kind of more evil leaning, I guess is the right word, while Lily is just trying to get acceptance from her mom. And that's a very telling story to see. It's a very typical story and it's very relatable. So I like that subplot we had with the two of them. And I did like the redemption arc at the end for Necroline.
Yeah.
Though I have to ask, why is Necroline Ninja Steel? Necroline, what you doing, my girl? What you doing? Why are you back?
Wait, wasn't it in Dino Charge where she
It
was
was
in
Dino Charge.
with the prisoners and Sledge's ship?
Was it? I thought it was
It was
Ninja
Dino
Steel.
Charge. I remember
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
Dino Charge. She was one
Okay.
of the it was like an Easter egg, like she was one of the prisoners in Sledge's ship.
Okay, I thought it was in like that tournament thing.
She might have appeared. I know a lot of old monster villains were like one of the
Yeah.
background characters. What's really interesting is that remember when I told you that I was like imitating Mig from freaking Overdrive? He made an
Yeah.
appearance in the first episode of Ninja Steel as a different monster.
Yeah, he killed the suit that was used for Vengeance's body, the Hirameki Mita suit. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I'm
Dino
gonna be
Charge.
curious. I'm curious
Yep.
to like revisit Necroli's Sentai counterpart because in the Sentai, she has a human. Well, actually, there's these two girls that
Night and
are
Mare.
humans, and when they combine together, they form Necroli. So I'm
Yeah.
curious how that's going to work. I'm curious what I think about that character because I don't really remember much from Van Culia in Magiranger, but I thought Necroli. I mean, she's not Jared or Camille level, but I'd say she's like a B tier villain, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who, Nikolai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I gotta give the voice actors her props because also because she also plays her in live action, as well.
Yeah.
Her screech is just I gotta give her props. Like that woman can voice her, her A off. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah. Next up we have Mordecon.
Yeah.
Who?
He's kind of forgettable. He's kind of forgettable. Not gonna lie to you.
I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Like because at least with the other general, there's something to him. When we get to Imperius, I'll talk about that. But with Mordecon, is it unfair to say that that he was just kind of a monster of the day that just appeared in a few more episodes than you're normally used to, and that's about it?
I mean, basically, yeah.
He was cannon fodder.
I'll give you this. He was strong, but I mean, honestly, that's it. That's really all he had.
Yeah. Then yeah, I guess we could move on to Imperius there. What do we think about Imperius?
Definitely very sticky, very conniving, definitely memorable.
Yeah.
I wish they did more with him plotting to overthrow the master. Like, couldn't you have at least done something similar to like what Boldont did to Bomber the Grey, where maybe Imperius tries to overthrow the master and then the master retaliates by just turning him into some mindless monster and sending him to his death. Like, you needed some payoff from that.
Yeah, they needed something because he had such a presence. Like he dictated a lot of what was going on in the middle part of this season. And then he just kind of fizzled.
Like literally, because he turned to ash when he died. So it's kind of ironic you said that.
Yeah, it kind of it's very Dino Thunder-y. And what I mean by that is this has always been something I've said about Dino Thunder for years, but that season did not know how to end story arcs in a satisfying way.
Nope.
Every single story arc ended on a flat note, and this guy feels in line with that. There's just something missing from the conclusion of his time on this show.
Do you feel
and that's
like
probably why I don't think he's as memorable as he should be? Because he had so much buildup, but he never had that moment,
Do you feel like if he had more episodes, then that would have fixed some things, or do you feel
he needed a moment, which I don't think he got one that made him memorable.
Yeah.
Like Mesogog had moments. This guy didn't.
I can still remember him over, Mordecon at least. So,
well, yeah, because when he was around, he actually did stuff.
Yeah.
What happens in the back end of this season is kind of his fault.
And I kind of wish that they did more to emphasize the rivalry between him and Daggeron, because when you think about it, I mean, we see him around, like his debut kind of pairs with Daggeron showing up, and Daggeron is the one who defeats him in the end. So,
well, you would need Daggeron to be a character.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Riz, do you want to chime in on anything with Imperius?
I mean, he's all right.
Yeah, we're quoting my meme ranking videos again. Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to import all those sound bites into the soundboard here.
I'm shocked you haven't done that yet.
Yeah. That's like that's like one of the most obvious things to do.
There's a simple explanation for that.
I
Have that as a soundbite, though.
It's a great soundbite.
It is.
It is.
That's the problem.
Well, we could talk about the 10 terrors now, briefly. What do we think about those? Them.
Let the hate flow through you.
That was in response to your
Did any
hatred
of
of
these?
the.
I don't think the terrors were around long enough to really have any.
The only one that mattered was the one at the end who turned good.
Itasis, I think.
Passes.
I can't say his name, but yeah.
That's one of
Matumbo?
the
You talking about Matumbo?
Matumbo. I think these guys are one of the consequences of the tangent we were on earlier about the show needing more episodes, because
Yeah.
there's 10 of these guys. I'm assuming in Magiranger this equivalent arc took up about maybe like a dozen or so episodes.
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't got to it yet, but I remember watching it back in the day. But yeah, they fleshed it out pretty well.
I had a feeling that was the case. This whole thing with these guys was really abridged. You could tell that they tried to rush through it as fast as they could. So none of these guys are. I forgot they had names.
Yeah, almost every battle with one of the individual terrors is a 2-part episode.
Yeah.
I can only remember the 2, which is Matumbo and Itasis. That's all the ones I remember.
Yeah, because I remember the equivalent of the episode where Nick and Vita can't morph. Now, granted, the same thing doesn't happen in Magiranger, but it was a 2-part episode where they defeat that terror. The episode where Daggeron has to learn more from Nick, that was a 2-part episode of Magiranger. So, yeah, I mean, the fight with these guys is literally abridged because you're compressing a bunch of 2-part episodes down into one episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, the terrors, I can't remember what they were called in Magiranger, and we'll find out soon. But I wouldn't say that they're the most like complex villains. Like they're probably just going to be maybe not just as forgettable as the terrors, but pretty dang close. Because I mean, with villains like this, you can only do so much. But there were at least some memorable parts of the 10 terror arc, as opposed to Magiranger, as opposed to Mystic Force, where it's not bad, but like I said, you really should have used the 10 terrors as an excuse to give the other Rangers some focus. And we can wrap this up because this guy is probably not going to need much to talk about. Do we want to talk about the Master really quick?
Who?
Exactly.
So you want to know some fun little piece of trivia about this guy? He actually has a name.
Yeah, he does.
Is it Sandrid?
No, it's Octomus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you want to know where his name first got debuted?
What's
this
that?
is when Mega Force was airing, Bandai released a TCG for Power Rangers. Fun game. I was invested in that game like crazy. When they finally released a card of him, they called him Octomus the Master. And everybody was like, "What? Where did this come from?" And I actually managed to get a response from the admin of the Facebook page for the card game because he was like one of the card designers.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when we got the rights to use his name, when we got the rights to get around to using the character, Saban told us to call him this.
So Saban was like gave this man a name, but Disney didn't even care enough to give him a name. That's funny.
So his full name is Octomus the Master, and the stupid TCG that was being released when Megaforce was premiering is where it came from.
So Disney couldn't even care enough to give him a name.
And,
Sad. That's
and in
tragic.
case you were curious, no, his card was terrible.
Not even a good card.
So,
that was
basically, what you're saying is that this character was overall bad.
Oh no,
even
yeah.
as a So okay.
The TCG had a really bad problem of the archetypes were the different Ranger teams, but every villain was considered one archetype, and he was awful.
That makes sense.
But yeah, there's your fun trivia about this guy. As for the guy himself, grumble, feed me magic. Oh God, I'm obese now. Explodes. We're done.
Double beast now.
I mean, that is true.
Yeah. Oh, I can't.
He suffers from the problem of being the main antagonist that doesn't show up until too late, to where he has no personality.
Yeah,
I know he was now called Enma in the Japanese in the
Enma,
Sentai. Yeah.
I mean, Enma isn't really that. I mean, Enma and the Master are pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he of any more interest? Was he any more interesting than this guy?
He was pretty much just your run-of-the-mill last-minute villain too. So,
I mean, I think
there's no difference.
I think the only thing I can remember about him is like, wow, his name is Enma. No wonder he wants to take over the world. So, but yeah, that's all for the villain. So now we can actually talk. I mean, some of these people are interesting, some of these people are not. But yeah, let's talk about some of the supporting characters here. Let's start off with one of the ones that I'm actually going to talk about very highly here. Let's start off with Claire. What do we think about
that? I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. See, it's the goat. The goat.
Riz, you can't imitate those. Just get those sound bits at that point.
I need to go get them. But no, I think Claire is an amazing character, and I love her to death.
Yeah, 100%.
She's great.
Like, me and Nate had a debate last week at Ranger Stop about Claire, and we're trying to figure out, do we think Claire is the best of the supporting cast in general across like the Disney era at the very least? And that includes against like Fern, and we're starting to wonder if we think Fern might be second to Claire in terms of the GOAT for supporting cast.
I know Boone was cool.
Boone is cool, yeah.
I say that Claire is because, well, first of all, we actually see her develop, because in the early episodes, she does a bunch of comic relief stuff. She tries to cast this one spell to trap the Rangers, but then she turns herself into a sheep. She tries to do this cleaning spell that makes her bald. Like, she messes up on all the basic stuff. And then she has the Gatekeeper story arc, where she actually gets a chance to transform into not a ranger, but a ranger-like ally, and she gets to fight with Korag. And honestly, after the Gatekeeper story arc episode, I feel like her comic relief antics were really toned down to where, okay, she's not as great as Udana just yet, but she's gotten better. Like, her development into actually being a good sorceress isn't something that just comes up out of nowhere. Like, you see her develop where she's incompetent at first, but then she has to kind of rise up to save Udana when she becomes the Gatekeeper. And then after she becomes the Gatekeeper and she saves the day, she develops a bit more self-confidence, which helps her become better over time. And by the end of the series, she's helping save Udana when Udana gets captured. And she's become a full-time sorceress, and she's just as good as Udana. Like, it is a very natural, well-flowed character arc.
And it never felt forced either.
Yeah.
Which is the good thing.
Because you could feel that she was trying, but it just, just wasn't cutting it right back then.
Yeah. And when it came to it, when she needed to perform, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's the perfect example of pressure creates diamonds.
Yes.
Where she actually performed better under pressure because she overthought everything.
Yeah.
So under pressure, you just act off instinct. Holy crap, she's actually good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, like, Boom was good, but you really needed an episode where Boom could at least. I would have liked to have an episode where he actually did get to morph, but I mean, he does make that speech. Boom has some moments to shine, and Fran, who's another character who I think is great. Fran is absolutely adorable and she's great, but Fran Fran didn't actually have any moments to like shine where she actually fights. Like the best that she has going for is her romance story with Dom, which don't get me wrong, that's great, very great, but it doesn't hold a candle to what Claire did throughout this entire series.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why. Yeah, Riz, if I ever do one of those meme ranking videos for supporting characters, spoiler alert, Claire gets the goat rant, honestly.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
I'm expecting to see that video on my feed tomorrow.
I'll have to then I better get to work editing that stuff then.
Yeah, you better. You got
The Zordon Arrow one is the Saban Arrow one is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Bulk and Skull and Lieutenant Stone and Ernie, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Miss
Yeah.
Fairweather.
Oh, you're
And
talking
Mr.
about the-
Collins.
Oh, you're talking about the extended Zordon era.
Yeah, from Mighty Morphin to Wild Force.
Okay.
But and just a spoiler alert, I I would probably say from a technical standpoint that she's better than what technically counts as her Sentai counterpart, because her Sentai counterpart is only in a handful of episodes, but we'll get to that when we get to Magiranger. Now we can move on to well, did anybody else want to say anything about Claire?
No.
Okay, cool. Okay, now we can move on to the obligatory Kelson Henderson comic relief character, the half troll, half goblin, or troblin, Phineas. What do we think about him?
He's hilarious.
I love him.
Yeah. He's an a-hole, but you can't hate him.
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah. It's like because he'll say something and you'll just be looking at him like, dude, what the crap, man? And then in a way he was kind of like helping you, but you're like, but still, like, why'd you say that? And then he just looks, he didn't realize he said something wrong. He's like, what I say? What did I say?
He goes full deer in the headlights. What I do?
So
I
have to ask y'all,
Go ahead.
did you honestly see him and Lily being the thing, or was it kind of like it was inevitable?
That
And
felt a little random to me and a little bit.
That caught me
forced.
off guard. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It felt forced. I don't know.
Yeah, it did.
Because
Like,
I'm
if
like,
they
how
had
do you
more
go from
moments-
liking Nick to a Troblin? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Hey, we don't kink shame around here.
yeah, I probably prefer Boom and maybe Mick to him, but he's still better than Nord. I'll give him that. Now that's not
Yeah,
saying
sure.
much,
Nord.
but still.
No, he's a good
Um,
character.
oh my god! If I, not gonna lie to you, I think if I did my Norg impression, y'all would hate me forever. I'm not gonna do that to y'all.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
So keep
My
it to
Norg,
yourself.
my Norg impression.
You save that for when we do Operation Overdrive.
Yeah.
Just so we
No,
can
I'm not
get the
doing
camera
it.
to hear that.
Y'all hate it. No.
I mean, we're
Okay,
gonna be making
okay.
fun of that show when it happens. Who cares?
Okay. Well, okay then.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to the Rangers' boss at the Rockporium. Toby. What do we think about Toby?
Toby was really fun. I liked his I don't want to call it obscure music love, but his older music love was much appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
would
I've known
work for a guy like him. Honestly, he seems fun.
Yeah.
Also,
I've actually known a couple of people who have owned record shops, and they're usually the chillest guys.
yeah,
So
like Patrick, you know that that ever-growing list of people we want to have lunch with one day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's add Toby to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Toby and Boone would be buddies.
I would
Yes.
also like to have Phineas come to that lunch just to have the hilarity.
Yeah.
Honestly, you got to give him credit for being a really nice boss because the Rangers are constantly blowing him off to go out and not telling him what he wants to do and any other boss what they're going to be doing, and any other boss would just be all like, "No, you guys are fired." But no,
Yeah.
Toby's a good old sport and just lets
Yes,
them keep
because you
working.
any other time you would have got fired immediately. Because I have never seen where all the employees are all just going off somewhere. Now, mind you, he does know that they become Ranger later on, but like he doesn't learn that till like halfway through when the show is about to be over. So
And he was one of the first ones there to help them get their powers back at the end too.
Yeah.
So
And I probably prefer him to Piggy just because I didn't hate Piggy last season, but he was just kind of eh.
disgusting.
Piggy was
So-
one of those. Piggy was one of those people that was begrudgingly helpful.
Yes.
Like you knew he didn't want anything to do with it, but he helped anyway because he knew he'd get shot if he didn't.
Yeah. I think the one time where he did genuinely wanted to help was near the end, and that's the sad part.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can talk about the cat genie, Daggeron's little sidekick. Technically, he was in the Sentai, but he's still a supporting character here. Oh, and fun fact, he's voiced by the same guy that plays Master Swoop in Power Rangers Jungle Fury, and that is the cat genie Gingy.
He
He's
has
more
really good
interesting.
range because I wouldn't have thought
Yeah,
that
me
that was the
neither.
same guy.
I
Yeah, I
found
had a hard
Gingy
time
more-
believing that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting here trying to decipher that myself. But I thought Gingy was better than Daggeron.
Yes.
He's a lot more entertaining
Yeah.
than Daggeron.
You remember Gingy, definitely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you do.
Might be in my cat attack.
Yeah, that's true.
I've made it clear that I don't like Daggeron.
Get in line, buddy. Get in line.
Yeah, the
Oh
only
my
thing I wish
gosh.
is that so they released a toy, and I actually own it. They released a toy of the Magi lamp buster, which is the equivalent of a laser lamp here. And they have this little thing, and now I wasn't sure what it was saying until my wife told me because it's speaking in Japanese, but like there's the thing where Genji's counterpart Smokey pops up, and you're able to like play a game with Smokey, and it's like couldn't you have released the exact same toy of the laser lamp, but had the same thing with Gingy? Because that would have been fun for the kids.
His
Like, come
name
on,
was-
Bandai.
His name was Smokey in Magiranger?
Yes.
He was.
Okay, that's 1 point to Power Rangers for naming.
Yeah.
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 Because I think the only reason they call him Smokey was because he literally came out of the smoke when he was.
I
in there,
know,
so it's so stupid, but it's like, whatever. Like,
Plus, I liked how much of like a wise guy he was with the Rangers, where it's all like, "I'll grant you a wish." Okay, I wish for 100 more wishes. And he's like, "Okay, I grant you that wish, but yeah, because of this like legality thing, I mean, you made the wish, I granted it, but because I granted that one wish, I don't have to grant other ones. So yeah, ultimate troll face moment.
And then he
That was hilarious.
dabs.
and he just dabs.
he would be the kind of guy that would dab on you.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of curious what if they didn't waste that wish, what would they wish for?
I mean, you could have easily just wished for you could wish for Udana to have her snow staff back. You could wish for the forces of darkness to have never been released in the first place.
And he could have done that. That's the crazy part. He could have
Mhm.
done that. He has done the opposite. So it's possible for him to do the, reverse.
Yeah. But anyway, last supporting character before we jump into the Rangers here. So the main thing before the final tier ranking, let's talk about Lily briefly. Who, fun fact, Lily is played by the same actor, Holly Shannon, same actress who played Camille in Jungle Fury.
Yep, that's definitely her. All right.
Yeah. She has a very distinct look, like
Yeah, she
Yeah.
does.
she's real pretty. She's
Just,
pretty too.
I think just to kind of sum up how I feel about Lily, thank God this actress came back to play Camille and actually do a decent character because I don't like Lily that much. I really don't.
Yeah, she
I
annoyed
mean,
the crap out of
she's
me. I'm not gonna lie to you.
she had a good storyline with her mom, like I mentioned earlier. Like her and Nikolai had a good thing going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you guys are not liking about her is the entitlement she felt throughout the entire season.
Well, it was more as the beginning. I actually didn't like her in the beginning, but she grew on me as I rewatched Mystic
Yeah.
Wars. I was like, oh, okay, she's getting
And
a little better.
that's kind of how it was too. I was like, she's all right in the beginning. Now I'm like, okay, she has a really good story arc at the end because she really grew up a lot.
Yeah, and
My issue is how she is after she turns good, because it's like in the Heir Apparent episode, she's all like, "Oh, mom, could I keep the Rangers as pets?" And then in the next episode, she's all like, "You know what? I'm bored of being evil, so I'm just gonna go and become good." And then she walks up to the Rangers and she's like, "Hey guys, so yeah, I just like I just like totally asked to make you my pets, and I was evil, but yeah, I don't want to be evil anymore. So could we like just be friends?" And then the Rangers are all like, "No,
no.
screw you." And then she's all like, "No, I want to be my friend."
I mean,
Like,
I mean, they
really?
definitely made her a teenager.
Like,
And you
all
guys
the
can't blame the
extreme
Rangers for being
entitled.
upset with her. I mean, like I know the Rangers were like, oh, I low key got annoyed with the other Rangers when Nick was being more harsh to her, and I'm just thinking to myself, y'all, did y'all not remember the fact that this woman is literally the daughter of one of the evil generals that I've been fighting for months now? Like, are we just missing all that? Oh, we hurt her feelings. Okay. She almost hurt our souls. So now what?
Like, I don't mind her being super entitled in the early episodes because, like, she's one of the daughters of the villain, so that just kind of goes without saying. It's the fact that the show wants us to feel sorry for her when the Rangers don't want to be her friend, but it's like it's not like you even left the forces of evil because you were questioning if what they were doing was right. You just got bored.
You
Like,
got bored and your mom was ignoring you. That's it.
I'm sorry, Lily, but you kind of deserve it.
Yeah. You should be lucky that they didn't want to kill you, because I would have definitely wanted to kill her if that was me. I'm just saying. Listen,
Dang.
I'm not one. Okay, I will admit this. We are lucky we are living in a world where we have Ranger powers. Because if I had Ranger powers and someone did that to me, oh, I'm definitely going crazy. Nah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't get on Anthony's bad side then.
Yeah, really. He might give you a 1-2 with the Morphin Grid.
I'm just saying. I can be forgiving, but if you cross me, I'm like, okay.
But do you see my point about Lily, Riz?
I mean, I see it. I just think I personally think she's not as bad as we're making her out to be, because I think she's portraying a character that's hard to like to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Anthony didn't like the character in Time Ranger, whatever his name was.
Ryu.
You're not supposed to like him, right? Like,
yeah.
And whatever feeling Anthony was eliciting from that was the intended feeling he was supposed to feel. So yeah, Anthony's not gonna like that guy. Just like y'all are not supposed to like Lily, but I like that we don't like her because that shows that she's doing her job of being that annoying character.
At least with this character, you actually can like her eventually, because it's not like this character is like gonna be hate forever. It's like I don't hate her forever, but it's like I get the initial hatred of this character at first, and she does just get better. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, 100%. She gets way better by the end because she grows up and she finds love with her mother. Like, they can get along and bond, and she has that weird relationship with Phineas, which, I'm not going to question it.
Yeah,
I mean, she got replaced. I know, you know what it was? Seeing him fight kind of turned her on a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I did see that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think y'all are being a lot more harsh on her for the right reasons, but in the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of it. I think it's the role she played was great. I think they could have written her slightly better, but I understood why they wrote her the way they did.
yes. I mean, fair enough. I can see what Riz is saying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can
But
jump
like I
in.
said, I don't actually dislike her. It's just more or less like I get why like the Rangers dislike her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate this character. Like, it's not like I'm gonna write like some big rant about like how much I despise this character or anything. She's just a character where she's she's got issues. I mean, I'll give her some credit for being a bit better, and like, I mean, I probably in the grand scheme of things, I'd probably have her as a C tier supporting character,
that's
but
fair.
probably low C. But yeah, now we can jump into the main course here, talking about the Rangers. Let us start off with our. We're going to go in order with in the roll call here, except in reverse, since they do green, pink, blue. We're going to start off with red and then go in the reverse order here. So yeah, let's start
So
off with our Red
least rated is the
Ranger.
greatest. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a good way of putting it, Anthony. When it comes to the main five, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's start off with Nick.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with Nick to get my thoughts out the way first, and then
Go
y'all
for
can do whatever y'all want.
Yeah.
In terms of the season, I don't like Nick having a lot of the focus. I think he ate up a lot of time with his story, which I don't fault Nick for, because I think the story they were telling was a good story. I think the problem was not in that, it was in the fact that the season was not given a chance to spread out with a longer season run to give
Yeah.
other characters a time to have time to develop. But I think Nick's character has been one of the most interesting runs for me. So I've seen this season 3 times, right? So the first time I saw it is well before I met any of you guys.
Yeah.
And when I watched it the first time, I loved Mystic Force. I thought it was a great season. Then
Mhm.
I watched it a second time when we were doing our run through the franchise to maybe review all the stuff on the other channel that's no longer here. And when I watched it then, I was like, man, I don't know how much I like Mystic Force anymore, because Nick and his focus kind of threw me off from liking it, because it felt too red centric. It felt too it was lacking a lot of development for other characters. So I was like, okay, I don't like the season anymore. But then watching this season again last month, I realized my first impressions holds true more than the second. And that's because I can recognize now, yeah, Nick had a lot more presence and he was more, you know, focused on, but it wasn't necessarily a bad story they were telling for him. And the only thing that I would comment that I was like, okay, I don't really like this about Nick is he was very reluctant at certain key moments to, you know, be part of the team or really continue fighting. Like at the end, he was ready to give up because his mom and his dad were basically gone again, and he
Yeah.
couldn't deal with that. But I think that has a double-edged sword. On one hand, I didn't like that he was trying to give up. On the other hand, that moment showed his humanity to say, hey, even the best of us can have a bad day and, want to give up because they're human. And hey, he lost his parents. So that moment was pretty big. And I go back and forth on, do I like it or do I not like it? And I think the more I think about it over the last couple of weeks, I think overall Nick's character wasn't bad. It was very human, and it was a style of Red you don't see very often. Like,
Yeah.
you have the willing leader, you have the heroic guy, but you don't really get a lot of the, I didn't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to fight. I just want to be an edgy teen rolling
Ride my
through town.
motorcycle.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think Nick represents the type of Red that we're not used to in the franchise. Like,
Oh,
looking
like the-
back on it, I can't think of another Red that's like Nick.
like very reluctant. He's like a reactive hero. He's
Exactly. Like, okay, so I'm using Carter as the example because I'm thinking about Carter right now given something he posted. But Carter was a very willing Red.
Mhm.
You know, Carter's very willing. Zach was kind of thrust into it, and he wasn't super willing, but once he got into it, he was in it.
Yeah.
You know, the other Reds, like a lot of them they were willing and ready to fight. At least
Yeah.
at some level. Like, I know Zach had that back and forth for a little bit here and there, but never like this. So I think it's a character we're not used to, and I think that's why some of the hate we've seen in the past about Nick and the internet comes from that. But honestly, if I have to be very honest about it, I would throw Nick into B tier. As controversial as that might sound.
So okay. I can recognize what Riz is saying, but I think that like Nick, in my opinion, the reason why I wouldn't put him in F tier is because I can see that there's a good foundation for a great character here. I think the problem that I have here, and to be fair, this actually isn't much of a problem with Nick. It's actually something that I really wish they just did for the whole theme of the series. So in Magiranger, the overarching theme of the entire show, and we touches on this every once in a while, but it's not the main focal point. In Magiranger, the main focal point is all about courage. Like, you need to have courage. Like, it's all about people developing courage. And I really wish that they emphasized the courage element in Mystic Force a lot more,
Mhm.
because you could go off of Nick's backstory where, he's lived his whole life being adopted, going from, like, adoptive parents to adoptive parents, and he's just always been afraid of everything because he's going to, like, new towns, and maybe he's a social outcast, and that's given him a bunch of anxiety and everything, which makes it really difficult for him to have
Well,
courage. And
actually, it's explained that while he was adopted, his issue was that his family would move around a lot. He'd be
Yeah.
Yeah, but
moving from once he lived with his, I think, grandparents, and then now he's
Yeah.
just living with his sister in Briarwood. It was that type of thing.
Yep.
But even then, that still comes with social anxiety because you're constantly moving from place to place. You got to
Mhm.
meet new people, make new friends. You're not always going to have the same number of people. So the same principle applies there. And this is all about him developing better courage and, becoming becoming a much stronger person because he finally has friends that he feels like he can have special bonds with. And
Mhm.
yeah, and it's especially bad because the fact that they don't focus on the courage stuff does kind of hurt. Like, the whole thing where, like,
You gotta
he
believe in
doesn't believe in
magic.
magic. It's like, dude, you just saw Donna transform into a Power Ranger. You saw Chip and Madison and Vita and Xander do all this stuff, and you still don't believe in magic. Like,
Well, I think
okay,
what they would have
are you
they should have
dumb or
changed the
something?
dialogue. It should have been
Yeah.
you don't believe you can use magic as opposed to you don't believe in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I think Anthony hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah.
I think Nick wasn't communicating well that he even said in the first 2 episodes, I think somewhere, I know they have magic and they can use magic, but I can't use it. I can't do what they did. It's not for me.
And
That's different than
that could be like a and that could play off the courage element, honestly, because he's afraid that he's not good
yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And
See, I blame the script writers for putting that in there. They should have just had him say, "Oh, I don't believe I can use magic because I don't have the confidence, or I don't have it in me because I'm not like them."
And
Mhm.
honestly, if we were going off of Nick and like the up until like the final couple of episodes, honestly, I would agree with Riz that Nick belongs in the B tier because once he kind of gets into his own, he becomes pretty likable. I mean, I don't know how many people know this, but like in Dark Wish, when he wants to lead the Rangers through that portal to get to the
Mm-hmm.
tribunal,
I know what you're talking
Nick
about.
is the one that basically does the whole like never give up. We're Power Rangers and we have to fight. Because there's a point where they have to go through the door and Xander is all like, but Nick, what if things just get worse when we go inside? And then Nick just throws his hands up and says, then it gets worse
Yeah,
and we'll
he
yeah.
deal
said
with
like
it,
that
but
verbatim.
we can't just not do anything. So Nick has great moments. It's just near the end when he starts to become a little bit whinier and he gives up easily. And I get how Riz is trying to interpret it, but I wish that, like I said, maybe if they did a bit more focus on him, like just being in utter shock that Udana and Limbo are his birth parents and he suddenly has the weight of the world on his shoulders. If they did more to emphasize on that instead of just focusing on all this greater mythology and everything, not only would I put Nick as a B tier, but he would have been an A tier, honestly. But
Well, and
Mhm.
I think there are elements of him doing that in those episodes, but it's not like an overt in your face he's, doing it, but you can see like his subtle movements in the background where maybe he has like a one-liner that makes you think, "Oh, he's not used to certain things yet." Like there's a part where Udana tells him to go clean up the base. And he's like, "Wow, I found my mother, and I'm already having to deal with sores." I know it's a throwaway line for some comedic effect,
yeah.
but I think that throwaway line is also kind of indicating, "Hey, I have to learn to deal with the fact that I now have a mother."
Yeah.
Yeah, but how much of that is Ross Durrani? I think that's how you pronounce his name.
I think
How
so.
much how much of that is him just being a really good actor? Because I didn't mention this in the fun facts, but Durrani is kind of a big. I mean, he's an actor that he takes his work very seriously, and he took his stuff very seriously when he worked on Power Rangers. So he is a very like he's all in when he's acting. How much of that is him just being a really good actor and the writers putting him in situations where his character can be better? Because if that's the case, then if God forbid you take Faraz Durrani out of this and I don't know, put the guy who played Mac next season into this role, that would not work out nearly as good,
No, it's
unfortunately.
well, okay.
Absolutely
So
not.
I think you're right. But remember, the reason we're in this predicament right now with Nick is because the SPD budget made everyone freak out, and they cut the budget for the next couple of years.
That doesn't mean
And
that you can't have moments where they write in scenes where Nick is dealing with like the trauma of this. That doesn't require much money. I mean,
no, but does it require much money to write more focused episodes for Chip, Madison, Vita, and Xander? Not
no,
really.
it
It's
does.
just dialogue, but they couldn't do it. They needed more episodes.
Yeah.
So I think this comes down to a similar argument we made for Jungle Fury, where okay, there's a lot of greatness here, but they fumbled in the end because of lack of budget.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I would still probably, honestly, the more I think about it, maybe I would put Nick in the C tier just because
And I can
I'm
respect the C tier for Nick. I think that's a valid move.
I'm starting to
Um,
see I'm starting to see that maybe he's not nearly as bad because, like I said, outside of the final arc, there are moments where he does show genuine courage and all that, as opposed to Mac, who just quits being
Yeah.
a ranger like 5
Right.
episodes into the series, and
Not
he's
even
I
and
was
he
just about to
turns
five.
say
into
that. I was
like
gonna say that. I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
No, but like,
so.
but also think about it this way: even when he's giving up in the finale arc,
You understand.
why is he giving up? Think about that for a minute and put yourself in his shoes. You spent the last couple of months learning to believe in magic, even though you didn't have confidence in yourself to believe in magic and to be a ranger and to be the leader of the team. Then it gets even worse. His dad is the asshole he's been fighting all season, and his mom is the mystical mentor that he's been learning under all this time. That's a lot of stress to be under.
Yeah.
And then if you go from that to, oh crap, mom and dad are here and now they're gone. What the hell am I gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
put yourself in
I
put
just
yourself in those shoes of like, are you gonna have courage in that moment at the very end? Or do you need somebody to snap you out of it like how Madison did?
yeah, I can respect that.
And then also think about at the end when he is snapped out of it, what does he do immediately? Takes the sword, takes the mystic staff, whatever
Yeah.
thing. I don't know what it's called.
Mystic Lion
Conscious
staff.
That thing. And he gets in battle formation ready to fight. That's courage. Even though the rest of his team is down, he's still willing to go.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess he's more of just a victim of lazy writing, I guess you could say.
He's a victim of lazy writing, but also, so I'm not going to call him a victim of the next thing. He's a product of, in my opinion, being a more relatable Red. Like, the social anxieties you're talking about, all the anxieties he was feeling, that's all stuff that we can all feel and relate to. It's like, oh, hey, I understand anxiety. I have a crap ton of that back in my house. I don't know what to do with it, but I have it. So I can understand why Nick is hesitant to be a ranger and to, accept that he has friends now.
Yeah.
Like, those are all very human things that we don't see very often. You never once see Carter kind of doing the same thing. You don't ever see, you see Anders do it a little bit because he didn't want to have a team.
Yeah.
But the Reds that we call the goats, they never have a chance to really get this vulnerable and so anxiety or so fear in
No,
this
I think
way.
Casey did quite a bit.
Casey did, yeah, but Carter, Wes, not really.
Yeah, but so I would probably say, I don't know. I think the best way to put it is that a character like Nick crawled so that Casey could walk, because I think Casey did it a whole lot better.
We're gonna skip the fact that Mac was in the middle.
We don't
Yes.
talk about him.
Okay,
Yes.
Mac doesn't exist.
Good, but no,
Who is he? Who's that? Who that is?
Who?
Mac, I don't like those. I prefer Windows.
Ha 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 ha.
That was good.
Mac,
But
I like my
bummed.
Mac with cheese.
And it's a computer joke too. Get it? Because he's a robot. Ha, laugh.
Ha
Ha ha ha ha ha. He talks just like that. Ha 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 ha.
But yeah, I could probably go up to a C tier, Riz.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a C tier is fair. I think B tier is where I'm landing because I can relate to the humanity issues he's dealing with a lot more, I think.
Yeah. But what about Patrick and Anthony? Where would you tier him up?
This is like the thing I was talking about earlier, and I know I agree with most of what you said, Riz. The problem I have with it is I do think that those things that were there were too subtle, and he overall was just undercooked.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that him hogging the spotlight from the rest of the cast is the problem. The problem was that they didn't take full advantage of putting him in the spotlight. Because there is some subtle stuff for him there. I agree with all that. But if he's going to be the main character, then freaking write him like the main character. You don't write very subtle, slow burn, under the radar stuff with your centerpiece character. They didn't do that stuff with Andros. They didn't do that stuff with Takaru and Shinkenger.
Yeah.
They went all in on them. That's the problem I have with Nick. And it's like I said, it's going back to the writing. They didn't go far enough with him because his foundation was great. And then they gave other characters twice the focus and twice the development that they should, that then they did the guy who was in the main seat. And it really holds him back. But yeah, like the foundation he has is good. And as I've said before, I'm somebody who hates wasted potential, and this guy is the epitome of wasted potential.
Yep.
I want to like him more than I do, but I think a C tier is pretty reasonable. He had, if they wrote him like they did the rest of the characters in this show, which they should have, he would be at least an A character.
Yes.
Yep.
At least.
Agreed.
But-
and that's what I was saying earlier, that most of this
Yeah.
cast should have been an A or an S tier,
Yeah.
given how they were portrayed.
But with how they were like, well, he's the main character and we're going to write everyone else around him instead. That's the biggest flaw of this whole show.
So
And it's the thing that's really keeping Mystic Force from being like an A to S tier level Power Ranger season.
Yep.
Is because they underwrote him.
yeah. No, 100%
Could
agree
you
with
could
you
you
on that.
imagine? Could you imagine if we sat down and watched in space, and Andros kind of stayed the quiet shelled person the whole time, and there were just brief sprinkles of things of him opening up throughout the whole season, but he stayed kind of that same way the season wouldn't be nearly as good.
No.
Because like that moment when he thought Zane died, you saw his rage, his frustration, he opened up, he expressed himself more. That's one of the things that made In Space so good. Nick should have been the same way. Yeah, exactly. That was such a great thing for him because at the beginning of the season, you would never have thought that Andros would open up like that.
Yeah.
And he had those, what was it that you guys were talking about? That vulnerability that Nick had, that Andros, they opened it up. They let him be fully vulnerable on screen and showed how much he cared. Nick feels like Andros if he was written wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Andros showed what Nick could have been. And that's the thing that really ticks me off about this season. When everything else worked so well. So
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely, like I said, I definitely agree with your C tier ranking.
yeah.
I just
No,
lean
and
more
I
into the-
I
yeah.
appreciate the fact that you picked up on all of those little subtleties. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I
me
wish
too.
those subtleties were far more pronounced.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where would you tier Kim at, Anthony?
Probably also C tier because, like I said, I honestly agree with Patrick on this one because, like,
Yeah.
he could have been a lot better than what he was. I honestly could have given him a D if I wanted to, but he's still, because he has good good potential in him. So I'm not gonna rank him D or like F. No, he doesn't deserve that. He's definitely just a C.
Yeah.
And unlike the Overdrive characters, when he gave up, it was for a valid reason. The Over Rangers had plenty of resources to still go into the fight, or not even really doing the fight, just do other things to help. They did not need to go and just quit and do their regular lives. They're stupid.
Man, the Overdrive review when we inevitably get to it is going to be hilarious.
It is. I'm looking forward to that
Yeah.
so much.
Because it's like no one
It's
on that
probably going to be
show,
a 3-hour
honestly,
long podcast.
was likable except for the butler and partially the Pink Ranger. And even then, she had her issues too.
Yeah, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Yeah, we just spent quite a bit talking about Nick, so
Well, because
let's
that's where most of the focal point is.
all right, let's move on to the Yellow Ranger, who Riz. Fun fact: I actually interviewed the actor who played him at Ranger Stop and Pop. Riz is going to be posting it soon.
The interview will
cast-
come out before this podcast comes out.
Okay, cool.
At the time
Yeah,
of this
it'll be-
recording,
he-
it's scheduled to come out tomorrow afternoon.
Sweet.
I really wish we could saw more of him. I know he was a voice for Overdrive, but like I really wish we would have seen more of him in later seasons because he's honestly a great character.
I love
Honestly.
Chip, dude. His energy and enthusiasm is infectious.
Because he's low-key relatable because like yeah, sure. I didn't really go in my classroom with like a cape or like, do all types of but I have done the Naruto run. Like when I did Naruto run, when I was at school, like high school, whatever. I did
Yeah.
Naruto run. So I kind of relate to that a little bit.
He feels like the closest thing Power Rangers has ever gotten to Gokai Silver.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love that about him. And I agree with you, Anthony. He's probably the one Mystic Force character that should have appeared in later seasons. Like if they wanted to bring back past Rangers, he's one that they should have brought back.
Like I
at least
will never
once.
forgive Ninja Steel for not having him be his mentor. That irritated me so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to go off of that, Saban, I have a question in the unlikely event that you're listening to this. That Super Mega Force episode, Blue Saber Saga, which you turned into a Mystic Force tribute episode. So, the guy who voices that monster in that episode is Nick Sampson. So, why did you not bring shit back for that episode? Why did
we're still
Nate,
just as bad.
I think the point we're trying to get across here is he should have come back in Super Mega Force, which 100% he should have. He is the exact Ranger that if Super Mega Force was done like Gokaiger, where they brought a Ranger back for like a memoriam for each like dedicated tribute episode, he is 100% the Mystic Force rep.
Yeah,
100% the Mystic Force rep.
Because Xander already had his time. Like he had it with Once a Ranger, so like he's good. He don't need another tribute episode.
So the more I think about it, if we're like, okay, there's nothing in Jungle Fury, I think that you could fit into this archetype perfectly. But if we were going to talk about like the 3 comic relief Rangers that Bruce Kalish made between, 2 because one of them doesn't exist, and we all know which one doesn't exist. Between him and Bridge.
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm gonna give myself a headache trying to figure out that question.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
don't make me do this.
Maybe I'm partially pick Chip because I don't know. I get the vibes that Chip might actually be partially on the spectrum too, but in a more fun type of way. But I don't know.
I think I would go to Bridge just
because
bit. I would lean towards Bridge just because SPD in general was really good with its character writing. A lot better than Mystic Force was.
The one thing I wish is that, like, I brought this up, like how the monster that Nick destroys with his battleizer for the first time in the Sentai was destroyed by Magiranger. One way that you could have done it better is that they established in one episode that he's going to be training with Daggeron to become a knight. Maybe you could have subtly hinted that he was going through that training in a couple of episodes and then have that episode be like his training paying off, where like he has to fight this monster by himself and defeat it, and that results in him becoming a knight. And if you wanted to debut the Battleizer, well, here's the thing: the next episode is basically a Nick episode with a little bit of Vita sprinkled in there. And heck, Nick destroys that terror with his Battleizer too. So why couldn't you just have that episode be the one that debuts his Battleizer and not steal a moment for Chip to shine at the end?
Exactly, because like I said, I remember the Magiranger episode with Magic Yellow, and dude, Chip got robbed. He got robbed out of a good episode for him.
Yeah, and I'm sure
So
Riz and Patrick will probably think that when we get to that point in Magiranger too.
yeah, because my God,
Oh, does Yellow get robbed in
Magic Yellow was so
Magiranger?
goated. He has his own theme song. Like, 'cause I know a lot of Rangers didn't have a lot of theme songs back then, but except 6 Rangers in some teams, but Magic Yellow was so goated. He had his own theme.
The more I think about it, if he's not in my top 5, he's just outside of the top 5. Like he's probably number 6 or 7 at that point. He's definitely the best male Yellow Ranger that we've had, because Yellow Aquitar, who even is that? Dustin, not a bad character, but Chip is better. I'll just put it at that. And
And then
Ace,
someone who's loved Ninja Storm, I actually agree with you on that. And I do like Dustin. Like
yeah.
I do like Dustin. So yeah.
You have A Squad Yellow. He's an Evil Ranger, so who? And then Calvin. Okay, Calvin is not one of the problems with Ninja Steel, but he's just kind of an type of thing. So Chip is, if we're talking about a male Yellow Rangers, is definitively the GOAT there. But I would probably put him in the grand scheme of things as like number 6 or 7. May consider putting him in the top 5, but
Yeah,
I'd probably have him in A tier.
I do too.
You talking about Chip in A tier? I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one I would say if we had more development, he'd be an S tier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that in the next couple.
And my God, the 2-part with him saving Vita from being a vampire, chef's kiss.
Yeah, that's what we needed more of from him.
And you know, at the panel that we went to last weekend, I think most of the cast agreed the vampires episode was one of the best ones we had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I actually had that ranked as my number 3 episode. Number 1 is Dark Wish, and then there's one episode that revolves around Xander, but I think it's just a tiny pinch better than that episode. But it was still an amazing episode. But yeah, now we can move on to Blue Ranger, Madison, Fluid as the Sea. What do we think about Madison?
Madison is the character I think got robbed the most.
Yes. Definitely agree with you on that.
That you what the most?
Robbed the most in terms of character development.
Yeah.
Oh, that got robbed. Yeah.
No, because
it was so bad that she even said in one of her episodes that, like, yeah, I don't feel like I contribute anything. That's really sad when the character literally says out loud, I haven't done anything.
Yeah, because like Madison, her character of the main, well, no, the entire season, I would say Madison and Chip and Xander are some of my favorite characters. But Madison had a special place in my heart, mainly because she had that awkward, introverted personality. And there's a couple of good episodes where they're trying to draw her out of her cell and get her to be more, active with the friend group.
Yeah.
And I love the episode where she's like trying to hide behind the camera and they're like, no, you got to be part of the group now, and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really good episode. But the thing that I think I mentioned this in the podcast earlier, that scene at the end when she's pulling Nick back from the edge of like giving up, I think that's a really powerful moment for her because it's showing how she's suddenly gone from timid, doesn't want to be a ranger because she's too shy to be a ranger, to being the one to really, end of the day, save the world. Because at the end of the day, if Madison had not done that and told Nick to, get over it and we got to keep fighting, that would have probably been it for the good guys.
Mhm.
So I think she got robbed on getting more episodes, and it's sad. And when I was talking to her, it's like, man, I really wish she had more of it. And she's like, yeah, that's the common theme I'm getting from everyone here at the con is we wanted more of you.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm actually basically glad she at least got something. She didn't get a lot, but she got something. As opposed to she's not even. This is not even about her, like the Blue Rangers in general. I'm talking about another Ranger character from another season who didn't even get a single focus episode. Gia,
yeah, my girl
Yeah.
Gia got robbed.
that's even worse.
But you know what? And even despite that, I would argue Zia is still one of the best characters from that season.
Yeah, it was sad. She actually got more done after not being on Power Rangers. She's doing more fan made stuff,
Who?
which is good. Which is good.
Oh yeah.
Gia.
She did a couple of things. I think she did something with Cantata or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
She's also in Legend of White Dragon for whatever that's worth.
And she also did a promotional thing for the Street Fighter crossover they did with JDF.
They also had her cameo. It's actually pretty funny because I know where they shot this. So the Ranger Stop and Pop that I went to 3 years ago, my first one, I met Sierra Hanna and the rest of her cast, and they have just recently started doing a Megaforce Rewrite fan film series.
Yeah.
Where episode 1 focuses on Zia and her origin story. Episode 2 is focusing on Emma. And there's actually a scene in episode 1 where they filmed Sierra at Ranger Stop and Pop Atlanta, just doing a quick little cameo scene for the movie. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, we definitely need to check out that stuff.
Yeah.
But to go back to Madison, I think when you if you gave her a few more episodes, I really wish that they either did more to focus on the romance story between her and Nick, because everybody talks about how she and Nick are a good couple, but outside of the first episode, maybe that one episode where she gets turned into a statue, and then the last episode, they don't really do much with it. And then you also have the weirdness with how they actually adapt the whole thing of her kissing the frog to become Daggeron, but I'll talk more about why that's a problem when we talk about Daggeron in a second. But I I just wish that they gave us more of a straight up romance story. Maybe just have her be friendly to Nick, but not necessarily do the romance story, and then have the Sixth Ranger not played by John Toohey, just so that this doesn't come off as creepy. Have Daggeron be someone a little bit younger, so that you could have done the romance story that Maji Blue and Maji Shine have. That would have been a great way to have her come out of her shell. So,
yeah.
But as she is, I'm thinking, I don't think she has enough to be A tier, but I would say high B. Maybe not. Okay, actually, you know what? Yeah, screw it. High B tier.
You're putting Madison in the B tier?
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
I agree. I second that too.
And Patrick?
Yeah, seeing how blue is a weak color in terms of in Power Rangers, I think B is a pretty reasonable ranking.
Cool. And now let's move on to Madison's sister, the Pink Mystic Ranger. She used to hate pink, but now she loves it to the point where she dyes her hair pink at the end of a series. We have Vita, the Pink Ranger. What do we think about Vita?
Also, Rob.
Yeah.
I would actually say that Vita is much closer to Gia in this case, because outside of the episode, you have the episode where she turns into a vampire that's shared with Chip. You have the episode where she loses the ability to morph, shared with Nick. she doesn't get a solo episode dedicated to her at all outside of that episode where she befriends the terror. And even then, you got so much else jammed into that episode that you don't
Yeah.
have enough time for Vita to be focused on. So Vita is probably much closer to being like Gia than Madison is, in
Mhm.
my opinion.
She has a lot of personality, but they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
So,
And she's very likable too, because like you
oh,
don't
very
normally see
likable.
her. Because unlike with Sky didn't necessarily hate the color blue. He just didn't. He just wanted to be red because that's what he wanted. He wanted to be red instead of blue. But with Vita,
Mhm.
she didn't like the color pink at all. Like that's not her color at all.
Yeah.
She'd rather been anything else but pink. We've never had a ranger like that before that hates their color.
And I don't know if this is controversial or not, but of Bruce Kalish's three Pink Rangers, the others being Sid and Rose, I think Vita is his best Pink Ranger because
Oh, big. Oh, 100%, dude. 100% agree with
Sid
that.
is okay. She's
Yes.
not great, but she's just all right. And Rose, okay, she's got some great moments, but even and I'm not going to go into detail about that. Let's just say that there's some good stuff about Rose. She's not as terrible as the other Drive Rangers, but she also has problems. And you guys and everybody
Correct.
can wait until we review Operation Overdrive for me to go into detail with that. But Vita, the only flaw with her is that she doesn't get any major focus episodes outside of ones that she shares with the other Rangers.
Mhm.
That's not her fault. So we can't even fault her for that, honestly.
Pretty much.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I it was funny because I told Angie Diaz when I was interviewing her that I thought she would have been a better leader than Nick was, and Angie said, "Hell yeah!" So I agree with that.
I
Which, by
was
the way,
there for that
Angie,
in person, so I can agree that she did say this.
I think it's funny
which
when
by
we mentioned her last weekend. She was like, I don't know, but we know, Angie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Angie, if you're listening to this, I don't know if you are, but I did say hi to my wife for you, and she says hi back. Yes. Yeah, Angie remembered me and she saw that I had the wedding ring on. She's like, "Oh, you got married." And it's all like, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, say hi to your wife for me." So Angie's a total
That's
sweetheart.
sweet.
Yeah, no, the entire cast, guys, is fantastic. All amazing human beings, and I wish you guys had
Yeah.
a chance to meet them as well.
But yeah, Vita, I'm thinking what much like her sister, High B, like unfortunately, because she doesn't get that much focus, you can't put her on the same level as Amelia, Jen, or Corone, or Kendricks, unfortunately, but she is bordering on top five, I think. But almost certainly top 10. That's why I would probably put her in high B. Maybe there's a path for her to be low A, but I'm sticking with high B for right now.
I think B is where she belongs for the time being,
Yeah.
until she gets like a reboot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our Green Ranger, strong as a tree. He has a plan called Plan Xander, which always / never works.
He even
Xander
said it.
Bly.
He even said it.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think so. I know we've had a lot of debates on the best greens in the franchise, but if you ask me, the non-Six Ranger greens first would be Izzy, followed by Bridge, and then Xander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people try and tell me, oh, but what about Ziggy? I'm like, but Ziggy was not that great compared to Xander or Bridge.
I would put Joel ahead of Xander just because Joel had a character arc, but I will not disagree with you that Xander is better than Ziggy.
I have not seen Lightspeed Rescue in a long ass time, and so I will not give him that yet.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, Xander is. I would say this that of the four not named Nick, Xander is the closest one that has a character arc because we see him at the beginning. He's very lazy and laid back, kind of tries to be in charge of everything. And then we get episodes that are dedicated to him being a bit more conscious of how people feel, like that episode where he gets turned into a tree. I love the episode where he has a little bit of a clash with Daggeron because it shows that while he can be lazy, he's actually very skilled and crafty when he actually puts his mind to it. That's the one episode I'm ranking ahead of the vampire episode, by the way. So that's one of my
Yeah.
favorite episodes of the whole show. And even that episode where Madison is all down because she feels like she hasn't contributed anything. It's Xander who was saying, Maddie, that's ridiculous. You've done so much for the team. Like he's the one who's trying to build Madison back up, which
Mm.
that's a great moment for his character because he used to be very self-centered and not really caring about other people. So to see him actually try to build up his friends, that shows how far he's come since being a Ranger.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is why, unlike Chip, Vita, and Madison, Xander has earned his right to be in an A tier character definitively.
Yeah.
Like no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
agreed.
debate.
Yeah.
100%.
Agreed.
I'm not debating whether I'm putting him low T or high B or low A. He is solid A tier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I had the great fortune to actually interview myself.
Yeah.
He did.
And he remembered that 7 years later. That
He
is just
did.
so amazing.
That is amazing.
We said in the video, it's like, oh wow, yeah, I remember this.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, but unfortunately, we got to move on to a character who's not so great now here. I love the actor. He's a great guy, but let's talk about our sixth Ranger, Daggeron.
One of the worst in the series. He is forgettable.
Honestly, I really like. First of all, I don't know why you make him a mentor character because you already have Udana, so he just seems a little superfluous. Because at least in Magiranger, they don't have a mentor until Magi Shine shows up, so there's at least a point there. With Daggeron, I kind of like. I don't know if this is controversial or not. I really wish that if you wanted to bring John Tui back, you could have had him play Leonbo because I just feel Daggeron would have been a better character if he was either in the age range of the Rangers, like he's a teenager like them, or at most he's like because the main five Rangers we can probably assume are like in their teens, like they're teenagers. Maybe have Daggeron be like some guy who's like is either 20 or in his early 20s, kind of like the dynamic between RJ and the Jungle Fury Rangers, where the main three are teenagers, and RJ's not an older man, but he is very much like an adult. I just feel like that would have been a better dynamic because then you could have had Daggeron interact with the Rangers a lot more in the human world, have him
Mhm.
actually be a straight up sixth Ranger and have a dynamic with the team. Like he never morphs alongside the Mystic Force Rangers, which that always bugged me because he's the sixth Ranger, and it's not like he's Eric, where he's a
Yeah.
loner who refuses to work with the team. He works with the team. Why doesn't he morph with them? I really wish it. I really wish that you got a different actor to play him, someone who's in his 20s, so that he can have a much better dynamic with the Rangers. I I'm not gonna say like he honestly at times just felt like a slightly better version of the Omega Ranger, where he's a character who's just there to fill a suit, and that's it.
Yeah. That's I think that's a pretty good explanation. Because yeah, I mean he's just forgettable. Like I said, he doesn't
Yeah.
really feel like he contributes anything. He doesn't have like a staple or iconic moment. He's just there.
Yeah, what do you think, Riz?
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't like. I didn't have strong feelings with Solaris Knight in any of my three viewings of it.
Yeah.
I think John Tui said it best in the panel, or maybe I think it was in the panel. So on one hand, when you ask him, "What's your favorite suit or ranger that you played?" and he would say, "I can't choose one because they're both my children." But then, if you ask him for what's the more meaningful role to him, he leans towards Doggy more because of the tragic story there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very apt description that, yeah, okay, Daggeron's not a bad character. Like, he's definitely not, like, terrible, right? Like, he's just not very well written. So I would put Daggeron, like, in a C tier.
Do you think? What do you think of my idea though that like you have Daggeron? You don't even have to call him Daggeron. You could just make a completely different character, like someone who's not old enough to be the Rangers' father. Like have him be played by someone who's either around the Rangers' age range in his teens or at least in his 20s. Do you think that would have been better?
No, I don't actually. And here's why. So I think it was actually important to have a character like Daggeron appear when he did. So part of the way I look at the team is you got the main five who are the new kids on the block. You got Udana and Liambo, who represent like the older Mystic Force from back in the day. And Daggeron fills out that team to provide that extra, guidance or help. And I think it's interesting to see the kind of melding of an old team with a new team for the story purpose of like, hey, we have these old heroes that we reference on and off throughout the season in theory. Like, we're not seeing a lot of it in the show, but you have to imagine that when the cameras are not rolling, Udana is telling them about the olden days in the final battle, and Daggeron's name probably came up once or twice. So it's more of that legacy of, hey, you have this legacy hero who did a lot of stuff, and having him come back and kind of help train them, it's not a bad thing. I just think that they didn't utilize him well in that role.
I see what you're saying, but I think like what you were I mean, we don't have to go back and forth for this that long, but you were saying that like Udana and Lianbo are like the people from like the older generation, and Daggeron's like
No,
kind of
but
someone who's part of that
no,
generation. But
Daggeron is part of that generation, but I called out Udana and Liambo more because they're the parents of Nick. So there's a tighter connection with the two of them and Nick, but that doesn't diminish Daggeron's place in that echelon of the old heroes that have come back.
I, I get what you're saying, but I just feel like Udana's kind of already the representation there, and with Daggeron, like not to say that he couldn't be a mentor, but I just wish that like he had honestly, I think at the core of it, it's just the fact that I wish that he had more interactions with the Rangers. Like he could be a straight up sixth Ranger because at the time he did not come off like have a dynamic with the main team that felt like a sixth Ranger, even though
But he
he is.
but he doesn't need a dynamic like a Sixth Ranger because he's not part of their team. He's part of Udana and Liambo's old team.
But he still fights with the Rangers like regularly. So, I
Right,
mean,
because he's helping because Udana can't fight half the time. So he's helping them fight, but I don't consider him a Sixth Ranger in the terms of like, hey, here's Tommy, he's on your team now. Because he's not on the team, he's just there to help because
I get it. I personally would just kind of lean toward like I really would have liked for there to be like a character who regularly interacts with the Rangers to be a sixth Ranger and just kind of shake up the dynamic just a little bit.
yeah, but we didn't get that in this season, and I'm honestly okay with that not being a thing because we already had a constraint on time for episodes and everything.
I mean, yeah, and that definitely says something with his debut episode because so much happens in his debut episode that him showing up as the Solaris Knight almost feels like an afterthought.
Right, but like that's the thing is this season is so riddled with rushing things up and not giving time for things to bake that Daggeron did not get the due service, and I think that's the only thing you're really complaining about is not getting more time with Daggeron to see him in that way.
Yeah,
But
that probably is just my underlying problem the more I
it
think about
is
it.
no, because every time you've mentioned a problem with the season, it's always the same thing. We need more time. We need more development. They didn't
Yeah.
have the time, they didn't have the development because they didn't have enough episodes or budget.
I can agree. I'd probably put Daggeron more in the D tier though, because I genuinely feel that he just felt like a character that was there to fill a suit. Now he's not as bad as the Omega Ranger since he has episodes where he's actually able to show some forms of a personality, but yeah.
Okay, let
Uh,
me ask you it this way: Ricky or Daggeron?
Daggeron, 100%,
Okay,
because
then
Daggeron at least he has some episodes where he has a personality. Ricky does not.
okay,
And he was
so
there. And he was there. He was there.
right, and so that's my point. Is I think you're overly being harsh on Daggeron.
Well, I kind of feel like that he's
Like I
you
understand.
you can't convince him that he can't be harsh. You know, like you
Oh
can't
no,
convince
I'm
him like
not. But I'm just commenting that I think Daggeron is a low C tier, maybe. But I
yeah, he's
think
a low C for me as well.
yeah, I think calling him a D tier when you've given that rank to Ricky is a bit of a stretch though.
I mean, he's better than Ricky, but I don't want to say he's that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Patrick and Anthony, where would you want to tier Daggeron?
I put him in
Yeah,
C as well.
no,
Okay.
he's. Do I want to say he's the second worst Sixth Ranger in Power Rangers? Probably.
Well, okay.
And
Sam,
Riz, I'm unlike
only,
a lot of us, you're not gonna convince Patrick of anything.
Oh, I'm not convincing Pat. I'm not going to even try.
I mean, I'll say something. I mean, I don't know if this is considered like a bold take or not. I think Tyzon is a better character.
That's actually kind of fair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is because Tyson has a bit more of a personality and
Yeah.
backstory that they delve
Yeah.
into.
So yeah, no, he's a
Damn,
low.
Daggeron. Yeah.
He's a D tier Sixth Ranger. He's just every time I think of Mystic Force, I have to remind myself that he's even in the show. Like that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that he is besides Nick, is he like the only thing that's holding the show from being better in your opinion, Patrick?
Honestly, I don't think it matters. Like, I mean, we've had good seasons with mediocre Sixth Rangers.
Yeah.
He's not
Because-
important to the story, so him being average isn't the problem. It's Nick's the important one to the story. Him being average is a problem.
I think Patrick saying the Tyzon comment has put things into more perspective, and I might have to drop it to low C, high D tier for Daggeron.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that really opened my eyes into like, oh yeah, that's actually a good point.
Like I said, I mean, maybe not maybe having him be a bit younger isn't necessarily the thing that could have made him better, but
No, it's not. I think the thing that makes
if
him better is that he should have had more time.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think the age does not matter here. I honestly like him being an older character. Because we don't ever get that very often.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, let's move on to granted she's not a ranger for most. She's technically credited as a supporting character, but she morphs into the White Mystic Ranger more than most, so we can just consider her an extra character, extra ranger. Udana, the White Mystic Ranger.
I can actually count my fingers how many times she's morphed. She's actually morphed on screen 3 times.
Yeah, she has.
Udana's a good character. I have no real issues with her. I have no real things to brag about her for. I think she's the middling character of like that. She's there, she supports, and yeah.
I'd probably put her as like a B tier extra ranger. She's good, and that's about it. I think that I really liked her at the end when she takes the initiative to go and try and save Leonbo. It's pretty decent stuff, but I'm pretty fine with just calling her B tier.
Yeah. Also,
I agree.
hey, Demetria, this is how you do mentor role. Be Odana.
Yeah,
Facts.
exactly.
Thank you for saying that because I totally agree with that.
All right, moving on to Lianbo.
Oh well, Patrick, what would you tier her up?
Based off of what mentors?
Mentors, yeah. Extra Ranger.
Extra Ranger. I mean, where did everybody else put her?
I'd put her as a B tier.
Yeah, we all
I
put
was
B tier.
thinking the same. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
She's a good solid mentor slash extra ranger, but Kruger and RJ are just untouched in that
Yeah.
department.
She's not on RJ and Kruger's level, but she's good enough.
Yeah, she more than deserves praise.
Yeah. And now we can wrap up the our talk with Liambo, which I'll just get my thing out with Liambo out of the way. I think Liambo is a very typical routine evil ranger who turns good. I'd probably say that I like his character arc more than Merrick's, but it's certainly not on par with. I wish that we got more focus on it. I know that sounds like a broken record with that, but I mean, we've seen it done better with Tommy's story arc and Ryan's story arc and Lightspeed Rescue. I would, and I mean, even if we want to talk about villains turning good, we have Astronema in Power Rangers in Space. So Liambo for me is either low B or high C tier, honestly.
I'm gonna throw out some controversial takes here. I might argue that the Lunar Wolf arc was done better than Lianbo.
That's what I'm saying. I definitely agree with you on that.
I think
let me watch that story arc again, and maybe I'll feel that way. It's been a while since I've watched Merrick's story arc, so
Is it wrong that I kind of actually miss Korag? Because like that dude had aura. I'm not gonna lie to you. He was very like when you see him on screen, you know you about to get toasted.
But the issue I have when he's Korag is that he's constantly saying, "Oh, this monster has no honor. You have no honor. You have no honor. No one has any honor." And it's like,
That was my issue with him too.
could you shut up with that? Yes, Villamax does that, but he lives by an honorable code. He backs that up.
Yeah.
So you
I love how Nick called him out on. He's like, "Wait, so you're okay with the bad guys winning, but they don't do it in a nicer way? There is no honor in victory." I'm like, shut up! You're working with the villains. You're evil, dude. What are you talking about? Nothing you do was honorable. You took what was honorable about you taking Onan's staff? What was honorable about you using Claire to open up the gates to literal hell? What was honorable about you, like almost nearly killing your son? Well, he didn't know he was a son at the time, but still, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
What was honorable about any of the stuff I just mentioned?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's why I feel comfortable. I don't think he's a terrible character, but I honestly feel comfortable just putting him. Actually, the more I think about it, probably a C tier. What about everybody else?
yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then to wrap this up, we will normally we talk about our favorite and least favorite episodes of the season here, but I mean, I think we could all probably just agree that the best episode is probably the Dark Wish 3-parter, and the worst one, I'd personally just say the clip show episode, just because it's a clip show episode, but and there's not that many bad episodes in here, so we don't really have to go into much detail there. But yeah, we can wrap this up by each of us giving our season tier ranking.
B tier.
Yeah.
A B tier, definitely.
It does good things. It does bad things. It's bad things keep it out of the A and S tier area. But it's good things are things that I think people need to start acknowledging more often. This season, I think, is like the most overhated season in the franchise.
It is. Like,
It is, yeah.
and you know, walking into this season for the third time last month, I was kind of bracing myself for, oh god, I have to watch Mystic Force now. But coming out, I was like, man, it's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good things in it, and I think the only
Yeah.
real bad thing I have complaint with is the other characters don't get a lot of time to develop, and that's just an unfortunate reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching the first two episodes when they originally aired, and I just kind of got turned off a little bit by it. Then a couple of years later, I watched it and I liked it fine, but I thought Nick was annoying. And watching it again here, I feel like I feel like I didn't appreciate it enough. I'd probably say that if Jungle Fury didn't exist, this would be the most underrated season of Power Rangers. Because Jungle Fury is like genuinely like S tier good, but people don't give it the type of love that it deserves. With Mystic Force, people hate it. I don't think it deserves to be hated, but does it deserve to be in the same conversation as some of the great seasons of Power Rangers? I wouldn't say that either.
Right, but I think also it was very interesting to me coming to Ranger Stop and Pop and seeing how much love this season has garnered from the fandom. We
Yeah.
had a full room for the panel, and I think maybe it was standing room only. I left at the end. So I mean, there's a huge amount of love for this team and this season in the fandom, and I think it's a very, you know, I think the reason people are more willing to call it the GOAT or the best in their opinion, because I've met a lot of people over the weekend who call it the GOAT, it's probably because they do like Nick's story and they think that they don't have a problem with the other characters not getting as much. But I want more from the other characters, and that's kind of my thing, is I want to see all the characters strive.
Yeah.
And you know, even if the actors are saying, yeah, I wish we had more to do, that's kind of telling.
Yep.
But yeah, those are my thoughts. Wrap it up.
And I would agree that it belongs. I did have it as a C on my blog, but the more I think about it, I'd probably up it to like a low B tier. Probably high C, low B. But yeah, that's where I would be at. But yeah, with that said, so we thank everybody for joining us here. Over these next couple of weeks, Riz is going to be posting a bunch of the Ranger Stop and Pop content. We're going to be posting on the last two O-Ranger podcasts after this one, so definitely check those two out. And the next Sentai that we'll be covering in order to follow up for Mystic Force is we'll be taking a look at Magiranger. So we'll be taking a look at the first 5 episodes of Magiranger after our last 2 O-Ranger videos are posted. So definitely check that out. We'll catch you guys next time when we return to O-Ranger and then move on to Magiranger. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now. If you enjoyed listening to the Toku Secrets podcast, please check us out at animesecrets.org and follow us on all our social media pages such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also feel free to check out our other podcasts, including Anime Declassified and the Jedi Squadron. You can also leave us any feedback you'd like to offer us directly on our website. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, we thank you so much, and please leave us a rating out of 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and leave any comments down below, as we love to take the time to read comments left on our channel and give our fans, shout-outs. If you have any seasons of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, or other tokusatsu shows that you'd like for us to check out, please don't hesitate to say so in your feedback. With all that said, we thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our podcast, and we will see you next time as we continue our never-ending journey through the world of tokusatsu. But until that time, you all stay safe, we love you, and may the power protect you.